Mayor Skelly, we are ready to proceed.
Good evening, and thank you for remotely attending tonight's City Council meeting. I would like to ask for your patience and cooperation as we continue to familiarize ourselves with all this new technology. The platform we are using this evening has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to remind all members of council that some of you do have yourselves self-muted, so you will need to unmute for me, please. Mayor Skelly?
Here.
Councilor Dillabaugh?
Here.
Councilor Fisher?
Here.
Councilor Kennedy?
Here.
Councilor Powers?
Here.
Councilor Reese?
Here.
Councilor Scamperly?
Here.
Quorum present.
At this time, if you would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time.
Your Honor, could we entertain a motion to keep it to 2 minutes instead of 5, only for the amount of people that may speak, and so more people can get in?
Yes. Does anyone think there will be that many people? We want everyone to get their time. Is that? I would second that.
Sounds okay to me.
The administrative regulations call for 5 minutes, and we're not at liberty to change that time, whether it's a special meeting or in chamber. I'm opposed to it.
Okay.
Kathy, could you advise that it's been done in the past?
Can't change the rules on the fly.
Not changing the rules.
You're suggesting you are.
I'm opposed as well.
I say no. I think you give them the 5 minutes. There's not a time limit on the council meeting tonight, so if it takes 5 hours, it takes 5 hours.
It could take a lot longer than 5 hours.
I'm in favor of that. That seems reasonable to me.
Kathy, is this permissible?
I can't answer that question, Your Honor.
I'm sure if we had a lawyer present, we'd be able to get an answer.
It is permissible. It is permissible. You're just suspending the rules. And I think what Steve's doing is suspending the rule in that case to try and accommodate more people. So it is permissible.
I agree that the charter only calls for 5 minutes, and we need to stick to the charter.
Charter doesn't call for 5 minutes.
The administrative regulations do.
Yes, and you can suspend the administrative regulations, and that's what Steve's doing, and it's legal. It's fine. We're just trying to accommodate.
Vote on it then.
Kathy, will you please call the roll on this motion?
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dillabaugh?
Yes.
Councilor Fisher?
Yes.
Councilor Fisher?
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy?
No.
Councilor Powers?
No.
Councilor Reese?
Yes.
Councilor Scamperly?
No.
Approved.
Okay, so Kathy, could we start the process of, public appearance?
Yes, sir. We're adjusting the timer to 2 minutes, and I am currently scrolling through to see those who have a raised hand and wish to address council. It's going to take some time because there are quite a few participants on the line.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
All right. We have one person who has requested to speak. The person has registered as Brian Solito. So at this point, I'm going to unmute that individual, and you will have 2 minutes to address council. I'm unmuting you now. I'm trying, sir. Give me a moment.
Okay.
It appears that he is self-muted. I have unmuted him. He is self-muted. Brian Solito, you will need to unmute your device. I have unmuted you on this end.
I'm ready to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in a democracy. We sent to each member of the council and the mayor on April 28th a letter specifically stating the need for a strategic plan to guide the future of this city. I'm not going to belabor the 4-paragraph letter, but I am going to say to you, you've had 8 days to respond to the 5 specific questions I asked you. I have only received a response from 2 individuals on this council. First of all, I think it's pathetic that in a democracy, you elected cannot respond to legitimate, rational questions when asked of you. I eagerly await your response to each of those 5 questions. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Brian.
I'm moving down to find the next person. Next person that I have in the queue to address council is Chris Evans. I have unmuted you, Mr. Evans, but it appears that you are self-muted. You are no longer muted, Mr. Evans. You can begin.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 All right, my name is Chris Evans. I'm a member of the Ogdensburg Police Department for over a year now. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and relocated as soon as Ogdensburg offered me my dream job here. Ogdensburg welcomed me with open arms, and I'm proud to call this area my home. I'm looking to move into the city and relocate here permanently. The members of this department immediately made me feel like I was part of a family, and I've built a great bond with them. Limiting my position not only takes away from my career, but it does an injustice to the residents of the city of Ogdensburg. By limiting my position as a patrolman, we are changing our response time to calls. A call I could be seconds away from could change to minutes. In this profession, seconds and minutes is the difference of saving a life, possibly. It could help stop a verbal domestic turning into a physical one. It could help save someone from a serious motor vehicle accident, or making sure a young kid stays clear of a dangerous scene. I took an oath to serve this public and my community here to the best of my ability, and public safety is very, very important to me. Not only are you doing an injustice to the city, but you are doing injustice to the other members of this department by creating an officer safety issue. And I want you guys all to take that into consideration. I think that's all very important. And not only should you take my livelihood into consideration, but also the lives of men, women, and children of this community. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I am continuing down the list.
Kathy, this is
Yes.
Nicole. Can I speak for a second? I'm getting a lot of text messages in that people cannot get on with the link they were provided.
Okay, if you give me a moment, I will step away and I will go to the Master Administration Control and I will return in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you for your patience. I have confirmed that there are 731 people registered to attend this meeting, and it appears that 491 or 90, for some reason, the rest are not being allowed in. And I believe that every member of council can see that on their screen if you look at your control panel
Yeah.
in the upper right-hand corner. I believe it shows you the numbers that are in. However, I just went over there and checked, and there are 731 registered. Those that registered received an email, and they must participate from that email. They cannot take the GoToWebinar ID number. They must go in through the link that they were set. I'm not sure how council wants me to proceed, but there are currently 492 people logged in, 731 registered.
Yeah, my phone is just going off like crazy of people that can't get in.
Well, it's going to be some time. They can work it out. It's just like when you have a council meeting and they have a flat tire and they get there late. It's like, you know, there's issues that occur. We're not
I don't
trying
think
to
it's
stop
the same
anyone.
analogy.
I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that people are saying they can't get in. That's all.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Please proceed, Kathy.
Okay. I am looking through the list here with me. Okay, the next individual I have is registered as David Price. I am going to unmute Mr. Price now. Mr. Price, you may begin.
Hello, Council. First, I just want to address this resolution that's put forth on this agenda. The resolution is illegal. It's a violation of City Charter, Section C9, Paragraph B. Under appointment and removal, neither the City Council nor any of its members, including the mayor, shall in any manner dictate the appointment or removal of any city administrative officers or employees. The city manager or any of his subordinates are empowered to appoint. City Charter, Section C10, Paragraph B, number 2, a council or the mayor shall forfeit the office for any express prohibition of this chapter is set forth in C9. Violating the terms of the charter's grounds for removing a council or mayor, a yes vote violates this charter. Charter also dictates that this government has a city manager. Therefore, by saying that you direct the city manager to make these changes, you are violating C9, paragraph B of the charter. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, I will continue down the list, Your Honor. The next person I have that has raised their hand to address council is registered as Deborah Sullivan, and I will unmute you now. It appears you are self-muted on your end, so you will need to unmute yourself before you can begin speaking. Deborah Sullivan, if you can hear us, you are self-muted. I have already unmuted you. You will need to unmute yourself. Your Honor, would you like me to continue? I can leave her hand raised and we can circle back.
Yes, please.
Okay, we will do that. We will circle back. Okay, searching. I apologize. There are quite a few people in here, and I have to make sure I don't miss anyone.
Kathy, you're doing fine. Just whatever it takes.
Okay, the next person who has a hand raised to address council is registered as James McCarthy, and I will unmute that individual now. Mr. McCarthy, your line does appear to be open. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir. Yes.
Okay. My name is Jim. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Ogdensburg. I'm a city taxpayer, and I do not support this resolution for these job cuts. I try to stay off Facebook, but it's kind of hard to do, and I can see that the community is pretty divided over this. But what I can assess from this is that I see a majority of taxpayers that do not support this resolution. And it appears that the majority of the people who do support this resolution are not even property taxpayers. And I know you as councilors and mayor have been appointed, voted in to support not only the taxpayers, but all citizens of Ogdensburg, young and old. These resolutions, they are not good for the city of Ogdensburg. You're taking away safety and security from all citizens to appease a certain group of people. I, as a taxpayer, do not support this. I've said my piece.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, the next individual we have that wishes to address council is registered as Jennifer Stevenson, and I am going to unmute that individual now, and it appears that you are ready to go, Jennifer Stevenson.
Good evening. I am very concerned that the cuts proposed this evening are being done with no solid plan of action. In the past, public work sessions were held to show how department or city services would be impacted along with the cuts. Staff had an opportunity to advise the council as to how they would affect their departments and to show us various revenue sources that could be changed or how other cuts might also help resolve the issue. Then a decision was made. This was usually done during budget time, when it was open and time, not just dictating to the city manager and trying to do her or his job. As a leader, it is just as important to be able to explain your actions, not just to decree that you are doing something because you can. Our citizens deserve to have confidence in their safety and well-being and in their elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm proceeding down the list so everyone's aware. The next individual that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Jose Manjarez, and I'm going to unmute that individual now. It appears that you are muted on your end, so you would need, there you go. It appears you are ready.
Good evening. My name is Jose Manjarez. I am a labor relations representative with UPSU. I represent members of the police department. I respectfully request that the clerk make my comments part of the record if possible. I guess my comments are divided in two parts. One deals with personnel and the other deals with public safety. Last week I sent the mayor a letter and I'd like to take this opportunity to renew the request that I made in the letter. It's simply that the union wants to meet with the city and the department leadership before any personnel decisions are finalized. We believe that the resolution is based on projected losses and on what we believe to be conflicting overtime numbers. We also believe that we have more than enough time to discuss alternate solutions before any layoffs are made. It's my understanding that the mayor has ordered the city manager to negotiate with the unions. That's a little confusing to me because it seems like the plan is being done in reverse order. It's unusual to make a decision and then to negotiate the contents of that decision. And we therefore ask that you reconsider the order of negotiations. We ask that we negotiate before any resolution is passed, if any is passed. And second, the nature of the work that we're talking about makes it that much more important that the city delays decision. To that end, I am not sure that it's safe for the city to cut positions without understanding the true consequences and without considering alternatives. It's undeniable that the city has a public safety issue that involves drugs, gangs, and guns, which normally work hand in hand. I saw an earlier Facebook post by the mayor where he alludes to the fact that it may be a waste of money to kind of enforce at least certain crimes because those that were arrested were right back in the street. That tells me that the mayor might not have a good understanding of the criminal justice system. Generally speaking, people have a right to bail and they'll have their day in court. And that is precisely why the mayor and the city council should be speaking to the union, the members of the department, and the department leadership before any decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you.
And continuing down the list, the next person that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Julie Hines, and I will go ahead and unmute that individual now. It appears that you are in fact self-muted on your end. You would need to, there you go. It looks like you're fine.
I just want to, I'm sorry you guys are going through this. I think you're all trying to do the right thing, but I'm going back to the OBPA. I want to know where that money is. Jeff, answer that.
Well, Julie, this is just for the resolution that's presented, but I do believe the Bridgeport, I think they may have paid that they're in full, but this is really we have to stay on the resolution, Julie.
So no answer on that. Listen, I'm a long life resident. I am so concerned about my kids and my students. Who's going to want to stay here if you decrease all these police officers and firefighters? Not me, because guess what? I'm not going to be safe. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Julie.
Kathy,
Yes, sir.
I had somebody chime in that background noise for the panelists is quite loud. I don't know if you can mute us while people are talking so that the people who are attending can hear us better, or excuse me, hear the people who are speaking better.
Can we mute ourselves by chance or no?
You can mute yourself, yes, or I can mute you, whichever you prefer.
Okay. Because I'm using my phone as my audio and my iPad as my video, can you mute me while people are talking and then unmute me back when it gets there?
Yes, sir. Would you like to be unmuted after each individual, or would we finish with personal appearance?
After each individual, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So if you would all be so kind as to give me,
I think I'm mute.
I can mute all of you with one click and unmute all of you with one click. But if you are self-muted, then when I unmute you, it won't work. So,
Yeah.
so what I will do is mute all of you now, and then we'll continue, and then I will unmute. If you find that you are trying to speak and you can't, it would mean then at that point that you're self-muted. And if you self-mute, you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so we are proceeding further down the line. Okay, the next individual that has indicated that they wish to address council is registered as Mark Valley, and I'm going to unmute you now, sir. And it looks like you are ready to speak whenever you're ready. Mr. Valley, can you hear me? It appears as though he's having some technical difficulty on his end. He is in fact unmuted on this end. It appears to me that he is also unmuted on his end, although for some reason, maybe perhaps he doesn't have a device with a microphone. I'm not quite sure. At this point, what I will do with the mayor's approval is circle back to Mr. Valley. Is that okay, sir? One moment, please. I have you muted, Your Honor.
Yes,
Mayor,
Kathy.
is that okay?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. The next individual that I have that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Michael Tooley. And Mr. Tooley, I will unmute you now. It appears as though your line is ready whenever you are.
Thank you for the opportunity to address City Council tonight. I encourage City Council to take the time to explore other options before deciding this proposal might be the best of all available options. The public needs to have confidence the city council has done its homework and evaluated various options before making a decision of this magnitude. I believe the fiscal problems caused because of COVID-19 does not need to be addressed entirely on the expense side of the budget. The city's general fund unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2019 is estimated at about $2.6 million. One purpose of maintaining a fund balance is to provide a municipality a safety net to access when an unexpected event such as COVID-19 impacts its finances. The fund balance provides resources that can replace lost revenue and help avoid loss of jobs and potential suffering in city services. I suggest use of fund balance to help offset some of the projected revenue loss. The 2020 city budget applies $136,000 of fund balance for support. I think an additional use of up to $500,000 could be applied while making remaining adjustments on the expense side of the budget, still leaving the city with around $2 million in reserve at the end of the year. A reason I do not think the city uses more fund balance than I suggest is that I believe you may need to apply additional fund balance in the 2021 budget if the $900,000 of lost revenue in 2020 is not fully restored. I also have questions about two of the items under consideration as they relate to the charter. I was served on 2 city charter commissions, so I have some experience. Regarding the Department of Assessments, there shall be a Department of Assessment, the head of which shall be the city assessor. So I interpret a layoff as creating a vacancy. I don't think the charter allows for that. To me, to take the proposed action, you need to amend the charter. Secondly, in the Department of Recreation, which will still exist even though merging with Department Works, I still think you need to appoint a department head there. And in closing, for the reasons cited, I encourage council to delay introducing this resolution. And if it is introduced, I hope you will table it. Thank you.
One moment, please, and I will unmute council. Councilor Dillabaugh is still muted. Councilor still self-muted.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And the mayor.
Oh,
I believe I have you out. I apologize. It does take quite a bit to get up and down through the list, so I apologize, but it appears that every member of the council is currently unmuted.
Yep, and thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Would you like me to proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, just keep going right through the whole list, Kathy. Doing great.
Okay. The next individual that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Sam Fresnia, and I'm going to unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open and you're ready whenever you are.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
we can.
I am not a resident. However, I do represent all professional firefighters, 18,000 throughout New York State. And I'm here to speak about what we've been going through across the state, especially not only in New York City and in Westchester, but up in the middle of our state and out west towards Buffalo. We have been intimately involved with the fallout of COVID-19, which we all know is one of the worst worldwide pandemics that we've ever seen. New York State right now has never had a greater need for firefighters and police officers, people that are there to protect our communities. To lay off any of your firefighters or police officers at this time is what we consider to be ruthless at best. We've been working with municipalities every day to try to secure much needed funding, federal funding, state funding, to try to get that money to municipalities and keep these frontline people employed and protecting every member of your community. I would urge all of you to try to work with us in securing the funding and keeping your community safe. This is what our people do. We take it very seriously. No one wants to leave that front line. No one wants to not be there to protect the community. We can help. We have helped. We're continuing to help. We're working in Washington and in Albany. And I would just urge, before you lay anybody off, to try to save these jobs and help out the residents of Ogdensburg. Thank you.
Thank you.
It appears that
What was his last name?
One moment. I can tell you that in one moment. The last name is spelled F like Frank, R-E-S like Sam, I-N like Nancy, A. First name Sam.
Thank you.
Christina. Thank you.
I am muting the members of council and now proceeding through our list. The next individual that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Tamara Graveline, and I'm going to unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted on your end. If you could unmute, there it goes. I believe we're ready.
Okay. As you said, my name is Tamara Graveline. I am the NISNA president at Claxton Hepburn, our local hospital here. Myself and Jess Thornton, we organized a stand together tonight at City Hall to show our support for our city workers. We invited all of local unions to join us. We had members from Utica and Albany standing on the sidewalk with us to stand in solidarity for our frontline workers. This is not the time to plan cuts and furloughs. In the time of a pandemic, we need to keep our frontline workers employed. There is government funding available through CARE Act, stimuluses, state aid, and federal funding to help our communities affected by COVID. This is not the time to furlough or cut. This is the time to keep your frontline workers employed for those funds to be available. As for cutting positions in entirety on the fire department and OPD, this affects our community as a whole. Our firefighters are here as our first responders to support our EMS workers. Our police officers are extremely important in our community and also as a support for Claxton Hepburn. I worked the ER for 16 years, and OPD was an extreme support for us nurses. We called them directly, and their response time was within minutes. If not less than a minute, it was 1 to 3 minutes. Without their quick response time, our nurses are in danger, and we continue to call them for help. I think there are other options that need to be investigated without making quick and drastic decisions to just a few important groups in our community. Thank you.
One moment, please, and I will
Thank you.
unmute the
Thank you,
members
Jim.
of council. Are you ready for me to proceed through the list, Your Honor?
Yes, Kathy, you can just keep proceeding right through the whole list.
Councilor Scamperly had requested that I unmute each of you after each individual, so I don't want to remute you until I know that you are ready for me to proceed. That's all.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Probably not necessary, I guess, to continue to unmute us again. But I would like to say I was proud to stand with the nurses today outside of City Hall.
Okay, and we will continue through the list. The next individual that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Tom Downs, and I'm going to unmute that individual now. It appears you are muted on your end. If you could unmute yourself, you should be able to address council. Your Honor, would you like me to circle back to Mr. Downs?
Yes, please.
Okay. The next individual that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Amy Kelso, and I will unmute that individual now. It does appear that you also are self-muted, so you would need to unmute on your end. It appears you are now able to speak. Amy Kelso, it appears you are unmuted now. Unfortunately, Your Honor, it appears as though there's a technical difficulty on her end. She does show clear on my end as well as on her end. Unfortunately, for some reason, we can't hear her. With your permission, I'll continue on and circle back.
Thank you.
Sure. The next individual that's indicated they wish to address council is registered as Andrew Lang. I will unmute you now. It appears you are muted on your end, Mr. Lang. I believe you should now be able to speak.
Thank you. Council, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, they can hear you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and each of you in attendance. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Andrew Lang. I'm currently a patrolman at our police department, and I would be one of the proposed 4 officers cut. I was born and raised in Ogdensburg. I've been with the department for about 1.5 years. Growing up, my father, Dave Lang, was employed by the department, retiring after 20 years of service. During that time, my father's career had a substantial impact on my life. Those throughout the city became like an extended family for me. It also afforded me the opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. I knew that I wanted to become a patrolman for our police department. January of 2019, I got that opportunity from Chief Kennedy, and then have the privilege of serving since. During my first summer on the job, I got an invitation for the New York State Police to go through processing for their academy. I declined that opportunity because it threatened my aspirations of staying in Ogdensburg and being part of the city solution, moving toward a better community. Tonight, the future of myself and many other city employees' lives in Ogdensburg hinge on your decisions. I ask that you take into consideration that while your decisions may make an immediate positive impact on this year's budget, they will surely have a lasting impact on future opportunity in our city. These decisions will have a lasting negative impact on the lives of the people that will lose their jobs and be a detriment to the overall efficiency of Ogdensburg and its services. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to serve the city, and I hope to continue to do so for many more years. I also thank you for allowing me to speak this evening for your reconsideration of my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Continuing down the list, hopefully able to circle back to those who were experiencing technical difficulty. The next individual that has indicated they wish to address council is registered as Brad Gasconi, and I will unmute you now, Mr. Gasconi. It appears you are muted on your end. If you could unmute yourself. There, as soon as you can address council.
Good evening, council. I grew up in Ogdensburg, and right now I'm currently a member of the Binghamton Fire Department, Local 729. All I can really say is there's a lot of funding out there, safer grants and stuff that you can apply for to save these positions. A lot of people always want to go for first responders, law enforcement officers, and positions like that. You guys don't really know how important they are until you actually need them. I think you guys are making a huge mistake, not just this, the safety of the residents, but your own safety. As a member said earlier, response times mean everything. Your house can burn down. A fire grows in size every 60 seconds. You start with a fire that's the size of a jar. In 60 seconds, it's the size of a couch. And it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. You have less time to respond, to be able to get out of your house if it catches on fire. In 2018, there was 53 methamphetamine busts in your city. I don't know. I think you guys are making a huge mistake by targeting and going after law enforcement and fire department. And I think you should use some of your general fund to maintain these positions and try to write a grant or have a grant writer come in to apply for a safer grant if that's what you guys need to keep these positions. Other than that, I don't know what else to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm moving through the list just so everyone's aware. The next individual is registered as Christina Green, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears that you are in fact self-muted. Christina Green?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay. Hello, Mayor and City Council. Good evening. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions, or one particularly. I was just wondering, what would the cost savings be if those layoffs were to continue or were to proceed? And what would be the benefit per taxpayer, per household? If it's not very much, I think it would behoove us not to do that. I think it'd be better off to keep the people on, the police force on, or the police officers on force along with the first responders. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Continuing down the list, the next individual is registered as Corey Maxner, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are ready to speak.
Good evening, Council. My name is Corey Maxner. I am the president of the Police Supervisors Union. I just wanted to add on to a little bit of what Jose was speaking of earlier. Obviously, 2 minutes isn't very much time to get as much out as we feel we need to. I'd just like to say that we're not opposed to the financial well-being of the city, but we're in favor of making a decision that takes everyone into consideration, including employees. I'd like to give a little history lesson to those counselors who were not there the last few years. When we took on the airport, we negotiated a 29th position be added so that we could properly staff. The next year, unfortunately, that position was cut by council. We tried to negotiate, and we elected to stop our negotiations with the city because we understood that they were in a financial bind and could not afford the 29th position, although we had agreed to have that 29th position. Subsequently, we got an SRO back this year. That position was funded $75,000. And then that position was never backfilled or added into our manpower. So they're essentially in the last 2 years, we're now down 2 positions. We currently have 1 open position. So that's basically 3 positions. The chief is leaving. You've projected to have a hiring freeze. So that would be 4 open positions. There's 4 open positions right there. We also have 2 officers out injured. So essentially we're down 6 positions over the last couple of years. I just want to lay that out there so you better understand the staffing over the last couple of years in the police department and understand that we're basically down 6 officers now. If you cut 4 more, our department can't function. And I just want you to understand that. I'm disappointed we haven't been able to have a discussion. We had attempted to do that. I thank you for your time and hope you reconsider this resolution this evening.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you.
Continuing down the list, just so everyone knows. Again, my apologies. It is a long list. Okay, the next individual is registered as Madison Braswell, and I will unmute you now. It appears you are self-muted. You would need to unmute, and it appears you are ready. You may proceed.
Hi, my name is Madison Braswell, born and raised in Ogdensburg, New York, currently living there, raising my family, city taxpayer. Also, I'm a registered nurse, and currently, due to the pandemic, my services are needed downstate, so I was unable to attend the protest today, which I would have gladly been a part of. I think you need to re-look at what you are doing and the safety of the citizens. When my son was 4 days old, he went into respiratory distress. I immediately called 911. Officer Reed and firefighter Jason Bouchard, next thing I knew, are in my living room, taking my son out of my hands and doing what they needed to do to provide him with the oxygen he needed. Another instance, I had a 7-year-old boy bang on my door at 10 p.m. one night. There was a domestic violence going on in his house. He was scared for his life. I called 911, and next thing I knew, Officer Polniak was there to take care of the issue along with other police officers. Looking back, I took that for granted. when I think about calling 911, I expect someone to be there. I expect my safety to be attended to, and I expect the safety of the citizens of Ogdensburg to be attended to. I believe with your cuts, this is not going to happen. I think you need to relook at what's going on and come to a better solution and actually sit down and meet with the firefighters and the police officers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like.
And continuing. Okay, so we have circled back to Mark Valley, who had indicated previously he wished to address council. I'm going to attempt to unmute him now, and it appears you are ready to proceed, Mr. Valley. Mr. Valley, can you hear us? It appears he's still experiencing technical difficulty. Would you like me to proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
The next individual is registered as Mary Marcinko, and I will unmute that individual now, and it appears you are ready to proceed.
Good evening. This is actually Kevin Marcinko. My wife and I were watching this together. I'd like to use my 2 minutes to quickly read through a news item that was posted on North Country Now at 3:15 p.m. today, titled Sheriff and DA, Interstate Drug Bust Was Connected to Violent Gang. Police charged 18 people and seized large quantities of cocaine and heroin during an early morning drug raid that authorities have dubbed Operation Drop. St. Lawrence County Sheriff Brooks Bigwharf said that the interstate drug ring based in Jersey City, New Jersey, is connected to a blood-affiliated street gang known as Straight Drop. He said at 5 a.m. today, Wednesday, May 6th, local, state, and federal officers raided addresses in Ogdensburg, Potsdam, Messina, Governor, and Watertown after months of covert surveillance. That led to charges against 8 St. Lawrence County residents, 9 New Jersey residents, and 1 person from Jefferson County. Police seized 6 pounds and 12 ounces of cocaine, 279 grams of heroin, 2,737 bags of heroin packaged for sale, and $78,000 in U.S. currency. The total estimated street value of the drugs is around $396,000. The names will be released later. I'm going to skip down a little bit because this is going to take too long otherwise. They were involved in several physical attacks of residents in our county, the DA said. He said the alleged attacks came to light during the investigation and weren't reported to police. The things we were seeing were getting too dangerous. We wanted to make sure nobody in this county got hurt. The danger element was ramping up too much. This is the Bloods. This is the gang everybody reads about in the national news. They are here. We don't want them here. He said that the investigation was a balance of keeping an eye on suspects and at the same time building a big case with the hope of proving a Class A felony distribution charge in court and then deciding when it's time to pounce. Local authorities did a great job in determining when that time was. Pasqua said, any decision we make is first and foremost dependent on public safety. He said none of the St. Lawrence County residents will be held on the charges they were hit with today. Some of those include first-degree criminal nuisance, which means they're accused of providing a place for the dealers to stay and sell narcotics. The DA said the arrests were a collaborative effort between local, county, and state and federal law enforcement, none of which has the resources on their own to tackle a case like this. Having a fully staffed and properly staffed police department in each of our communities is essential, he said. Speakers at the press conference announcing the arrest said the defendants took advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're in a COVID health crisis. These subjects took advantage of that. They didn't stop. They obviously expanded their operation. It's a deplorable act. He also pointed out that the illegal drug problem in St. Lawrence County is no longer limited to the larger communities. This is not a Messina problem or an Ogdensburg problem. That's in the past. It's a St. Lawrence County problem. This isn't going to be tolerated in our county. This is not a one-off event. If you come from out of state or another area to sling your drugs, we will seek you out. Officials said the case is ongoing and more arrests are pending. I think this is this is me speaking now. I think this is a clear public safety issue, and I think you should take these events from today into account when making your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're almost to the bottom of the list, just so everyone knows. I'll just need to go through it one more time. Your Honor, if you'd like to make a call to see if anyone else, it doesn't appear there are many hands left.
No, just try to get everyone you can, and that's all we can do is our best. Thank you, Kathy.
The next individual is registered as Alan Rickett, and I will unmute Mr. Rickett at this time. You are ready to proceed, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Excellent. Yes, my name is Alan Rickett. I am the president of Local 1799. First, I want to state that all 7 counselors have the facts of costs, money savings, non-money savings. They should have reviewed it within the last week. To build on the fact that there is grants, there's funding out there to take care of any shortfall. To not go down that path to get that grant and funding is very short-sighted. It's not looking out for the best interests of the citizens of Ogdensburg. That is for all first responders and all employees of the city of Ogdensburg. You have to explore every avenue possible. When you start talking job cuts, that is the last resort. That means every avenue has been explored, has gone down. You can't just, this can't be the first shot of cutting jobs. It can't be. You're talking about livelihoods, you're talking about safety, you're talking about the overall best interests of the city of Ogdensburg. I hope with everybody talking tonight, you reconsider what you're about to do. Because if you go down the path you are going down, that is something you have to live with. And that is all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan.
The next individual we had tried before is registered as Amy Kelso. I'm going to attempt to unmute Amy again at this time. And Amy, it appears you are ready to go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
Okay. Good evening. I'm addressing you as both a taxpayer of the Ogdensburg community and as a child protective caseworker. As a caseworker, it's my job to protect and ensure safety of the children in our community. I work with some of the most vulnerable children and families that we all share this community with. That being said, I certainly couldn't do my job alone. I've had the honor and privilege to work alongside members of Ogdensburg Police Department and other first responders at all hours of the day in some of the most critical, dangerous, and difficult situations our community faces. We work hand in hand to discuss and combat drug issues, domestic violence, and significant child abuse and neglect cases. None of you have experienced how heart-wrenching it can be to remove crying children from their drug-addicted parents at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I assure you that we cannot do our jobs without first responders and Ogdensburg Police Department. Above all, I'm asking that you please reconsider the proposed resolutions in the best interest of all of those in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next individuals are registered as David and Dawn Mers, and I will unmute you now. And it appears you are ready to proceed.
And it's just Dawn, despite Dave liking to talk on the radio, he ran in the other direction at this time. So you're stuck with one. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity.
there's a lot of emotion involved in everything that's going on as a parent and a citizen, but I'm going to try to speak from a business perspective in the regards that I hope we're approaching this slowly and conscientiously. So I have some questions I'm hoping you'll address this evening as you come to the table on this resolution. My first concern as a citizen is, are we in violation of our city charter by taking out the assessor and other positions? If so, do we stand to lose state funding from that? If so, are we not putting ourselves at a higher risk in so doing than what we're already doing? Also, will we be in violation of our union contracts we're currently standing in the front of? If so, we could be entering into a very large and expensive legal battle in regards to that, which is concerning if we're looking at this from a fiscal perspective. Also, in eliminating newer positions such as fire and rescue, some of the younger, newer of employ, I presume their pay rate is of a lesser grade than some of those who are senior who have earned their stripes, but putting them at risk physically and mentally could cause our overtime to go up, as well as some of our disability suits to be problematic in the future. And we've always talked about trying to entice new business to the city to help our tax base. I think it'll be problematic for us if we don't have a good plan going into this, because we won't have those first responders and those that would protect these businesses and entities from opening properties here and bringing their business here. So finally, I implore all of you to do your best and try to find a compromise, whether it be union, citizen, counselor, business person, whomever, however, to see if there's an opportunity or a way that we can come to the table and do some conscientious bargaining with one another to find a happy medium that all of us can succeed in a healthy, happy environment, both professionally and moreover personally. Thank you all for your time, and be blessed, everyone.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Dennis Lacombe, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted there. It appears you are ready, Mr. Lacombe.
Hello, my name is Dennis Lacombe. I operate Lacombe's Taxi, the longest running taxi company in the city of Ogdensburg. Over the years, I feel that I have witnessed thousands of emergencies, accidents, new buildings, and expansions. It is my belief that if you pass the proposed cuts, you will be jeopardizing the well-being of our great city. I would like you to think of the proposal as a football game. The people of our city being the home team, and our opponents will be the citizens in distress and criminals. As the game plays on, we lose a percentage of our players due to job cuts, and the opponent's roster remains full. My question to you is, who do you think is going to win? I disagree with these job cuts, and I think that you should reconsider it. The pandemic will end, and we will be back to normal. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
The next individual is registered as Heather Shaver, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted on your end.
Okay, you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Heather's husband, Keith Shaver. I'm a lifelong resident of Ogdensburg. I'm also a vet of Afghanistan, Iraq, and in the last 13 years, I've been a correction officer. Now, my concern about the SRO officer at the school and our other officers that are jobs are in jeopardy is I've dealt with Crips, I've dealt with the blood gangs and the violence. You start cutting back on our law enforcement here, you will see the murders and crime rates go through the ceiling. As of 4 years ago, I had put out my life along with 3 other officers at Riverview. Now, if it comes to it and the cuts are made, you're opening up Ogdensburg to martial law and everyone have to defend for themselves, and I don't want to see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Jeremiah Havens, and I will unmute that individual now. Mr. Havens, can you hear us?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
You are unmuted, sir, and you can proceed.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time and letting me address the council. I just have two questions. One is, can you tell me where else you researched for possible cuts in the city budget, and instead of the ones that you're proposing, or along with the ones you're proposing? And my second question is, did the entire council, the city manager, and the department heads have any say or any input into the cuts whatsoever? Or did someone or a few people just come up with these cuts on their own? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to try Mr. Mark Valley again. I've circled back to him. Hopefully this will work at this time. I have unmuted you, Mr. Valley. It appears that he is still having technical difficulty. Would you like me to continue, Your Honor?
Yes, Kathy, please.
The next individual is registered as Sue McGrath, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are muted on your end, and it appears you are ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I guess I'm a bit confused when I hear of all these professionals that have come in on behalf of the fire department and our police officers and first responders. I don't understand. They're saying that there's all this grant money out there. So is our council, I know we've got newbies on the council. We have a new mayor. Are they not looking into this? I mean, it behooves me that these people come in with this information, but they're not doing anything about it. So are they looking into this for us? I mean, I know my husband and I have a business here in Ogdensburg, and we've had to have the police there numerous times because of the stuff going on in Ogdensburg. And, you know, we fear for that. And we have tenants above our business that we feel very secure knowing that they're just around the corner for us. And I just don't understand where all these grants and stuff are coming in and nobody on the council, the new members, and one being a police officer in the past, I would think that he, of all of them, would be there to help support that as well. Being a retired police officer, I think he'd be the first one on the front line to help support our first responders and our police officers. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Teresa Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. Teresa Loeffler, can you unmute yourself? It doesn't appear that she's able to, Your Honor. Would you like me to move on?
Yes, please.
The next individual is Thomas Caracone. I apologize if I mispronounced it, and I'm going to unmute you now. It appears you are also self-muted. And it appears you are ready to proceed.
Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mayor?
Yes, you can be heard.
I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Ogdensburg firefighters. I'm a New York State representative for New York State professional firefighters. I represent the district in the surrounding area of Ogdensburg. And I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the members that have been on the front line and taking on this pandemic, taking on additional risks and policies, additional hazards and insecurities back to their family when they return back home. They are already short. Your government did take 4 jobs back in November. When they took those 4 jobs, it was an understanding that they would be protected by a no layoff clause. They recognized then that they couldn't cut any deeper into their department, and they're forgetting that now by reconsidering and even cutting into that department deeper. If you're talking about 8 jobs from a department that size with 27 people now, that's a significant difference in the services that they could provide. Not to mention, are we thinking this completely through? Because that no layoff clause is violated, we're looking at extreme legal actions that are going to go on for a long period of time and run large amounts of bills, and the only people that make out under those circumstances are lawyers. I reference you to Watertown, which is another department that I represent for the state firefighters, and they ran their bills up to $1 million in fighting, and it went nowhere. And all the money went back to the firefighters, and this ended in a resolve that didn't benefit any of the citizens of their community and didn't benefit the safety of the citizens of the community. I would ask you to take all of that into consideration before moving forward tonight. And it's not too late to change a vote if you came in with your mind made up. That's not until the moment that you actually push that button or raise your hand. And you should consider the people and the citizens that you guys represent that elected you and trusted you. And their priority should be their safety first. And that's all I have to say, except for thank you to our police officers, nurses, firefighters for providing the services on the front line. And thank you for your time to the Ogdensburg government.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Christopher Garno, and I will unmute that individual now. You appear to be self-muted. You would need to unmute on your end, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Hi. I just wanted to state to the council that my mother lives alone on the 800 block of Caroline Street at the age of 77. My son goes to daycare on Canton Street right next door to a house that has had 2 shootings in the past 2 or so years. I don't feel comfortable with the decision of cutting these positions due to the fact that it puts me in fear for my sons, his friends, along with my mother's safety, not to mention the residing neighbors to that house, along with Ogdensburg Free Academy School, where my wife works. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
The next individual is Dana Bray, and I will unmute that individual now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I am no longer a resident of Ogdensburg. I was born and raised in Ogdensburg. My concern with the cuts are last February, I got a call at work that my house was on fire. The apartment building I lived in was caught on fire by somebody making meth. What would have happened if our police officers and our fire department weren't there fully staffed to come save my apartment? Everything I own would have burned down. What is the response time? Have you guys looked at what's the response time if the fire department isn't fully staffed and you have to call in volunteers from Hewelton or Lisbon or Morristown? That's how whole blocks are lost. That's how blocks of the city were lost back in the day when there weren't fully staffed fire departments. I just think you should look at that and the safety of everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Jean Klaus, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. I believe you are all set.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I absolutely love living in Ogdensburg, despite some of the challenges that we face. I moved here with my children in 2016, and I have worked in the city since 2001. As some of you know, I am an avid and dedicated walker, and I have had to contact the Ogdensburg Police Department on more than one occasion due to some safety concerns. And they responded immediately and took care of the situation. And I fear that if jobs are cut, that I fear for my safety as well as my two children. And I implore you to look at other alternatives rather than putting our safety at risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Elizabeth Testani, and I will unmute that individual now. I believe you are all set.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I want to thank you, Kathy, for putting this together and increasing the amount of people that could get on from, I think it was 150 to 1,000. I think it's pretty amazing that we had 700 people register. Second, I'd like to echo Dawn Merz's sentiments. You know, this is kind of like a business, so we can't ignore the, the fiscal side of things. And I think we have ignored that report that came out in June of 2019. I think it needs to be looked at again by all of council. I think with our council being divided as big as it is and so publicly, honestly, guys, figure it out. It's a little embarrassing. And some of the public statements that are made, I think some of this could have been rectified by meeting with each other. You don't have to do, you can agree to disagree, but start looking at things as a whole. I've talked to multiple people. I hear that, I hear the fire department has tried to talk to the city. I hear that the police department has tried to talk. I also hear that the council has tried and asked for resolutions since January. So not sure, who's lying. Frankly, I don't care. The overtime, that big discussion, I may not make friends for this, but $300,000, regardless of where the reimbursement comes from, it's overtime. Not saying that it's not needed, but it's overtime. It's not 89,000, it's 300,000. So let's try to figure that out. Does that mean we are understaffed? Could be. We could be understaffed in the police department if we're using 14% of our total dollars spent on overtime, when the fire department's using 4% or their budget's 4%. I think we know more on the police side of things when we're going to need people, especially like for today, for instance, for the drug bust. That's planned. That there's a lot of things that go into that. So I'm sure there was overtime today. And was it validated? Yes, it's validated. Fire departments don't know when a fire is going to come for the majority of the time. They don't. So that overtime, I would have expected their overtime to be much higher. So I think that is something to be looked at. Do I think we need cuts? I really don't. I hope we don't, especially in the fire department that put 4 positions in their new contract that could be I think it was retirement, so through attrition. So maybe we offer early retirement incentives. I don't know if that's been had. The problem is people don't know because everybody's too busy throwing daggers at each other. So I suggest stop doing that. Buy yourself some time for the next probably month before you make some decisions and really do the work and speak to people. Speak to the head of the fire department, speak to the head of the police department and the rest of the department heads of the city, because if you did a 10% pay cut temporarily, I think it was about a $900,000 savings for a year. That could bring you out of the hole, but it all boils down to really assessments. So I recommend that if we get through this, you really look at the assessments, print the whole tax assessment roll like I did. It's very enlightening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Brian Mitchell, and I will unmute Mr. Mitchell now. I believe you are all set.
Good evening. I'd like to take this minute to just address council. A couple things I'd like to say is the four of you won this election on a write-in campaign. That was something that you've never seen done in the city of Ogdensburg and a great accomplishment. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you, when you started this, you probably had about, 5,000 Facebook friends that liked you. Now you've probably blocked about 3,000 of them. So right there, you've lost about 3,000 of your fan base. The other 2,000, it looks like you argue with daily. So I'd like to keep that in mind. As one of my great friends, Doug Loeffler, says, look back, you've been on 5 months, evaluation time. I've seen, Mayor, over and over on Facebook, your campaign promise, police and fire, you are safe. I like to say, Mayor, you're obviously not a man of your words, because here they are stressing about their jobs. You're taking this personally, cutting the assessor. Why? I'd like to ask why. Not only are you going to hurt the city school district, you're also going to hurt our taxpayers with no assessor. The other thing, Parks and Rec. You said it the other day, I'm for the kids. So what do? You go ahead and you cut the park director. Makes a lot of sense in what you four are doing. I'd like to take this time, as we're sitting here, we're now an hour and a half in, and I'm sure we're all wasting our time, because the vote is going to be 4-3. Because you guys have had this planned, you've sat back, you let people speak, and what are you going to do? You're going to vote 4-3. I would just like you to think, Mayor, exactly what you've done. Think of your promises and go back to your campaign speech. Police and fire, you're all safe. I'm in as your mayor. Tonight, when you cut them, go to bed and think of that speech. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Brian.
The next individual is registered as Kathleen Seguin, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted on your end. If you could unmute. Kathleen Seguin, it appears you are self-muted. With your permission, Your Honor, I'll move on and circle back.
Yes, please.
Thank you. We have circled back to Teresa Loeffler, and I will unmute Teresa Loeffler now. It appears you are, in fact, self-muted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, this is Doug Loeffler. It's not Teresa. Signed in on her computer. Last meeting, Councilor Fisher brought up the idea of postponing some discussion on doing away with positions to a special meeting where you could all brainstorm, which I thought was a great idea. And I have to piggyback on what Jeremiah Pete Haven said. And I was a little perturbed the next day. I look on social media and I see all these cuts. And I'm saying to myself, last night, Councilor Fisher, and which I agreed with, wanted a special meeting to brainstorm. So evidently the brainstorm was done. Okay. I would like to know, first of all, where the list came from and who came up with the list, number one. Number two, hopefully tonight You all sit here and you'll brainstorm about this. And the other thing I'd like to say is I don't support the cuts the way it was proposed. And somebody else brought up, about the brainstorming session, which you haven't done. And I think it's not good for this community. And this community, I've been here paid taxes here for 45 years, and we've had a lot of issues here that we've won and lost. But I haven't seen this community as divided as it has been during this issue. I sat in the same chair that you guys have for 8 years, and there's a lot of tough decisions have to be made, and I understand that. But you've got to come forward and you got to sit down, each and every one of you, with your department heads and with your city manager, and you have to come up with a plan. It can't be taking the gun out and shooting by the hip. And I hope each and every one of you realize that. And as Brian Mitchell just said, you had 1,500 people that voted you in, and I understand that. And you got 1,300 people also on another website that are in favor of not making these cuts. So you have to represent the people that voted you in, and you also have to represent the 1,300 people that have come on and are against this. And I know you have a tough decision, but you know what? If you all get together, I'll put your heads together and have some legitimate discussions, okay, and respect each other's opinion. That's where it's got to start, people. Each and every one of you have to respect your opinion, each and every one's opinion. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Doug.
Next individual we're circling back to is Kathleen Seguin, and I'm going to unmute that individual now. It does appear that you are self-muted on your end. Unfortunately, Your Honor, it does not appear that Kathleen Seguin is able to unmute herself.
Okay, Kathy, maybe we can continue on then.
I was actually just going to tell you that at this time, you might want to ask if there's anyone else, because I do not show any more hands raised.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Please hit the raise your hand button and you'll be heard. I'm surprised. I thought we'd be here. I feel bad we shortened things because I wanted to make sure everyone got in. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? There's a raise your hand
Your
button.
Honor,
yes.
We do have more, so I'll continue.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. The next individual is registered as Barbara Wood, and I will unmute you now, and you are all set.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I wrote a letter earlier before the first meeting, and it said, and I guess I'd like it part of the record. I'm contacting you because I feel strongly that this is the wrong time to cut our city fire and police staff. At the time I wrote the letter, the governor had just finished his daily briefing, stating how domestic violence, alcohol, and addiction incidents, and other various criminal activities, plus mental health crises, have increased in this time of shutdown. Now is the time that we need our police force and first responders. The police department's overtime budget has been brought up as the reason for cuts, but hopefully you haven't forgotten that we have just past a drug crisis in Ogdensburg, and obviously still in it. I live in a nice neighborhood, a block from the local parks. The police were at neighbors' houses day and night for the last several years due to meth and drug issues. So, of course, this is going to take extra manpower and cost. I applaud them for their work and feel they shouldn't have to risk their own safety working shorthanded. Our fire department operates our first responder service. They are at calls before our volunteer rescue squad. Even though I think we have a great rescue squad, they do great work also. We're in the middle of a healthcare crisis. Anyone providing healthcare services should be retained and applauded for the risk they take. More recently, the governor also said that representatives will not let any more federal money go out for COVID without spending to fund state and local governments. So there may be some expectation for relief. Ogdensburg didn't get into this financial situation all of a sudden, and we can take the time to try and problem solve and work to get out of it in maybe more creative and thoughtful ways. Keep our citizens safe and secure. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Scott McRoberts, and I will unmute Mr. McRoberts now. It appears you are ready to go, sir.
All right. I didn't know if I was going to have the opportunity to speak tonight since you moved the meeting to 5:30. Some people do have to work out of town, and it was difficult for me to get home, but I'm glad the meeting lasted as long as it did. I'm not going to beat a dead horse in comment on how vital the first responders and police departments are to this community. Everybody knows it. It's common sense. I want to go back to the last special meeting we had where Mr. Skelly's comments about wanting to collect $1,100 a week on unemployment. How do you think that made people who are recently unemployed, cannot collect unemployment? They've been waiting 5 to 6 weeks to get it, and they haven't been able to do it. I think that was a pretty ignorant statement. My advice, think before you talk, Mike. The second one, Counselor Powers is a friend of mine, yes, but the comment you made to him, Mike, calm down, you don't want to get a fever, was ridiculous. As someone who has been directly affected by this virus, I find that comment extremely offensive and a clear indicator of how ignorant you are. At this point, it won't be the taxes that will lead to an exodus out of the city, but the four of you running it into the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
The next individual is registered as Justin Niles, and I will unmute Mr. Niles now. It appears you are self-muted, and it appears you are ready now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Justin Niles, and I'm from the Messina Permanent Firefighters, IFF Local 2220 in Messina. I'm the treasurer of our union and trying to support your fire department and police department. I'm sure everyone is well aware of all the events that have been occurring for the past month. Not only the one that happened today with a drug bust, there was a structure fire about 3-4 days ago. Right now is not the time to make a knee-jerk reaction because of unknowns. You have a fund balance that could help you through what you need to get done. There are options. It seems like there's been very little thought about what kind of steps that you could take in order to minimize the impact on people's lives. A lot of people think that the fire department just purely deals with fires. I know that your fire department over there responds to water incidents, hazardous material response. They perform car seat inspections. They also provide fire inspections, which is a added value, trying to bring in some revenue for your city. The fire department is, from what I've always understood, has been willing to try to help out in any way, shape, or form that they can. And I believe that right now, they haven't been given the real opportunity to do so. I wish I was a little bit more knowledgeable about your police force, but I can tell you as a union member, most unions are willing to sit down and try to come up to some agreement on the best form of trying to come up with cost savings measures. So I would ask that you greatly think about what you are doing before you go off and make a major reaction for something that is unknown. This could be very well over as quickly as it started. May 15th is just around the corner for some of the phasing out for the new openings. And I would ask you that you seriously consider on what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Christine Hooper, and I will unmute the individual now. It does appear that you are self-muted, and it appears you are all set now.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to address the council and the mayor as the mother of one of our Ogdensburg City firemen. I'm speaking not only for my son, but for all of his coworkers and those of the police department and the other city departments that are being looked at for these cuts. I'd like for all of you to take a moment to think about what you're doing to these people as well. It's not just all of us in the city that are worried about our safety, but what about all of the dedicated hours that these men and women for the police department have put in to the training that they've gone through to be part of these departments? They don't take this on lightly. From my own personal perspective, my son also served in the United States Marine Corps. It's very important to him to support his community and to support those that he works with every day. They put in so much effort to take care of the citizens of this city. They worked for this career very hard. They train for it all the time. They're always looking to improve what they're doing. How would you feel if somebody was coming after your job? What you've worked your entire life to do, to try to help out your community. Please take that into consideration when you're thinking about making these cuts. I understand that the city needs to save money somewhere, but as everyone else has pointed out, please look to some other options. Sit down with these departments, talk through some ideas, come up with something that works for the entire community, not just for your own personal agendas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Tamara Graveline, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
There we go. Okay, can you hear me now? I gotta stop my car. Okay, I know I've already spoke once, but as I'm listening to everybody, I have realized that we are only addressing half of the issue at hand. Last couple of people that have spoke have addressed this, but there are city workers out there that have jobs in jeopardy as well, besides fire department and the police department. Our inspectors and assessors are vital to our community as well. Our employees at the Dubisky Center are essential to keeping our children's programs maintained. With our children not having access to these programs, they lose out on growth and in the future may turn down wrong paths if they lose out on those opportunities, which then causes problems, hence leading to the police department again. Also, the employees at the Dubisky Center. The Dubisky Center is the gateway to the biggest asset that we have in this town, which is the St. Lawrence River. And we need to bring attention to that and work on that as revenue, as I'm pretty sure was discussed in Mayor Skelly's in the fall when he was running in his election speech that he wanted to increase revenue there. I'm just thinking that I heard something. I'm not quoting him or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, I do not see any more raised hands.
Would you like me to do another request and see?
Counselor Kennedy, Counselor Powers. One moment, I will unmute you. Counselor Kennedy, you are self-muted. Counselor Powers, your line is open.
Kathy,
Another call out.
Kathy, I just have one statement to make. I got a message from Stacey Foster. She's asked me to go on the record to state that she feels her rights are being violated by not being able to speak in regards to tonight's resolution. And I told her that I would state this on the record for her. She wanted to speak and she is not able to log in with the credentials she has. That's all.
Would you like, okay, would you like me to go back and check the administration again to see? I'm showing 517 people logged in.
Yeah, she said she's tried several times and has not been able to, so I told her that I would go on the record with that for her.
Okay, our deputy clerk is going to take a peek at that administrative section of the go-to webinar. Counselor Scamperly, I do see your hand. I will unmute you. You are all set, sir.
Same complaint. I got one, Darcy LaRock.
Could they text you? Could they text you or?
Through Messenger.
Could they tell you what they wish to say through you, or?
They want to read something. Said they were unable to get in on the link that was sent.
I don't know, 517 people have gotten in. I can do another call and ask people to, if they want to talk. I mean, well, right now, you wish to speak to council.
Here is Stacey Foster. I want to speak. I am just as important.
Okay, oh, have her put on what she wants and read it off, Nicole, if you'd like.
She wants to do it, and I'm just saying I'm just stating exactly what she's saying.
Okay, well, thank you. Kathy, do you see anyone else?
Also, I have a response from Carolyn McPherson as well.
Okay, I do see an individual with their hand raised. They are registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now. You are all set, sir.
Okay, since I see we're allowing people to speak a second time, I'll take that opportunity. I just want to reinforce the fact that this entire resolution is in violation of the city charter. In fact, every part of it individually is. So I just want to read City Charter, Section C10, Paragraph B, number 2. A councilor or the mayor shall forfeit the office if any express prohibitions of this charter as set forth in C9 are violated. Just so everyone understands the word forfeit, you give it up. You don't have to be removed. Thank you again for your support.
Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, Your Honor, I see no raised hands.
Is there a number to call into for somebody who wants to speak?
Unfortunately, Counselor, an individual phoning in only has to use a PIN, and the PIN is attainable with a device login.
Let them talk through your phone, Dan. Have them.
Also,
have them go on your phone.
John McCarthy just said that he's the ex-fire chief temporary, and he can't get in to speak too. He wants to speak, and so there's a number that he can call to speak. John McCarthy from the fire department.
Can they Can they call you on another line and you hold it up to your phone?
No, that's not proper decorum. This is an open meeting. This is an open meeting, and this should be afforded to each and every individual to address council.
We're doing. So you don't think the staff's done a sufficient job? I think they have.
I didn't say that. I didn't say anything of the nature. That's not what I said.
Well, anyways, is there any more, Kathy?
I don't see any more
Donnie
hands
says-
raised, Your Honor. However, I apologize. I just had 3 hands raised, so I will address those now. The first is registered as Brian Polito, and I will unmute that individual now.
Thank you.
Here's you are self-muted. There you go.
Good evening. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to reinforce the fact that you need to consult with legal counsel based on the statements Mr. Price just made. It is absolutely unclear as to the legality of what you are about to proceed with. And I would like to make a suggestion that you consult legal counsel before going any further. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Cynthia Cole, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. I believe you are all set.
Need milk over there?
Cynthia Cole, we are showing that your mic is open. Your Honor, would you like me to move on and circle back?
Yes, please.
Next individual is registered as David Holleran. I'm going to unmute that individual now.
Yeah, this is Dave Holler. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Dave Holler, and I'm from the New York State Professional Firefighters Association. And I got on a little late. I got on about 20 minutes to 6. And all I've heard is many, many reasons why not to do this. And I would just ask you to, at the very least, table this decision until you can explore all of the ideas and the thoughts that came out through this meeting before you do anything. There's no reason why you can't take a little more time and do due diligence before you proceed. That's all I have to say. And if you do anything other than that, I'm not sure what you're thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Jamie McQuaid, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears you are okay.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I do not live in Ogdensburg. I've been listening to the meeting. I just wanted to point out that not everyone is privileged enough to have a high-speed internet to be able to join your meeting. So I think if they want to call in on a telephone, that they should be granted that opportunity. That's all.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Teresa Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted on your end.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just one quick comment. I have to agree with Brian Polito's comment about the legality. I guess my quick first question is the city attorney available tonight to you people? That's too bad, because I think there's some legal questions there before you're done that could affect the city. So maybe the next time you ought to think, when you're having these meetings, it's such a controversial issue with possible, I'm saying possible violations of the charter, okay, that you need legal opinion, and the public needs legal opinion also. And so just keep that in mind for you next time. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug.
The next individual is registered as Cynthia Cole, and I will unmute that individual now. Here, you are self-muted. Cynthia Cole, it appears you are self-muted. It appears that that individual is having technical difficulty. That is, in fact, that is the last hand that I do see raised. One moment, please. It appears someone is attempting to raise their hand. I'm not sure if they hit it in error or we could just wait for a few more moments.
Kathy, Don McCarthy, the fireman, says he's trying to raise his hand to get in, but it won't let him raise his hand. Also, Tiernan Smith just texted me. So if you can find it.
I also have Sharon.
I have Don McCarthy as a panelist. If he is using the acting fire chief panelist position,
Okay.
Mr. McCarthy,
Now
I
I'm
have
unmuted.
unmuted you.
I'm unmuted now.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, because there was no raise your hand button on my screen, and I just wanted to talk as not as the department head.
Thank you for reaching out. That's because you were logged in under the panelist for the acting fire chief. So yes, sir, the floor is yours.
Okay. I just want to say, as a member of the fire department, where we've agreed to lose members through attrition, it says the older people retire right now, that we won't have them replaced with younger men. This is a young man's job, and the 4 people that you're looking at laying off are the youngest members of the department. So you take the youngest, best shape, best trained individuals, and I'm sure it's the same thing on the police department. These people just got through training. They're the highest trained individuals, and they are the youngest ones. I know you can't lay off from the top. I mean, if you're going to take the 4 oldest and lay them off, then that would give you a younger department. But you're talking about taking your best firefighters, your best police officers, and laying them off. And as a taxpayer, I was just trying to run through my expenses. I mean, I spend $2,400 a year for a cell phone for my family. I spend $2,000 a year for gas for my house. I spend $2,300 a year in insurance. I spend $2,200 a year for cable and internet. And I pay $2,000 a year for a fully staffed department, fire department, Department of Public Works, city rec, code department, planning and development, and assessor. I can make a phone call to the code department if my neighbor has garbage in their front yard, or if you get rid of that code officer. These are the issues that make our city a nice place to live in, because we can call someone and have it cleaned up. If I wanted to save $100, I wouldn't want my services cut. I would cancel HBO. And I just think to cut anything off the police, fire, DPW, city rec, any of those positions lowers our quality of life in Ogdensburg. And there's other places that I would rather have cut. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Your Honor, I do have an individual that has raised their hand. The person is registered as Holly Preston, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are, in fact, self-muted. Holly Preston, it does appear that you are self-muted. Unfortunately, it appears that that individual is experiencing some technical difficulty. I would like to let council know that both the deputy city clerk and I are both receiving messages indicating that people are having difficulty logging in. I don't know how council wants to proceed, but I do feel obligated to share that information.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. It's like, you know, it's unfortunate. But if someone wanted to get to council and they didn't have transportation, you know, you do your best. But so, is there anyone else?
There is someone who just raised their hand. That person is registered as Tom Sexton, and I will unmute that individual now. It does appear that you are self-muted, and it appears you are all set now, sir.
Mr. Mayor, it is not the person that doesn't have the car to get to the meeting. They're banging on your door trying to talk, and you have it locked. I understand we're in difficult times, but people want their voices heard, and it's your obligation as mayor to let that happen. It's not the person's fault. It's your fault. It's the time's fault, but you have to let them hear you. You have to let them be heard. Your door is locked. Their tire is not flat. You're ignorant.
Yeah, if people can't speak, I believe this is a violation of open meetings law.
Well,
I agree with Dan.
Well, let's continue on. Anyone else?
Yes, the next individual is registered as Scott McRoberts, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are ready.
Good evening, City Council members and Mayor. Thank you very much. My question is circling back to last week's comments and this resolution and about the lack of leadership in our department heads. You know, just some questions that have popped up. Who will write grants for our city? Who will oversee the day-to-day activities? And you know, we're in the midst of a $40 million wastewater treatment facility renovation. Who is going to oversee the day-to-day operations of that $40 million project? We know, I live with an engineer, I lived with a project manager, and overages and costly measures will come up. This could cost the city of Ogdensburg millions and millions of dollars. This might be something that Sarah Purdy, who is extremely knowledgeable, would be able to do. Are you planning to hire another city manager, or are you just going to run Sarah out of town? I'm really concerned about the lack of foresight and planning that this select few on city council has as we move forward. You have no plan. You didn't have a plan last October when you ran for office. You don't have a plan now. You're just making cuts that will be at the city's sacrifice. We're all going to pay for your decisions if these cuts come through. I ask you to consider talking to the department heads. I ask you to be transparent about speaking with lawyers on city dollars. I ask you to be honest and above board when you make these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Jennifer McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, and you are all set now.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't going to get on here and speak. Hey, I just watching you guys is disturbing. You can see the tension between all of you. And as a citizen of Ogdensburg, I have respect for all of you. I would never want to have a job like this. You're going to be hated one way or the other at this point, and there are tough decisions that need to be made. However, you guys need to pull it together and work as a team. It's hard to watch this, and I'm sure a lot of people agree with me. That's all I wanted to say. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Next individual is Jeremiah Havens, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are all set, sir.
Okay, thanks. I just got a question. Another question came to mind. How many people did you say were logged into this meeting?
Mr. Utter, would you like me to answer that question?
Yes, please.
I currently show 533 attendees. However, at last check, there were 800 people registered.
Okay, this is my question. There's 800 people registered to follow this meeting. I have seen nobody raise their hand to speak in favor of these cuts whatsoever. That should tell all of you something. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Kathy, I'm now receiving complaints that people have been kicked out of the meeting. One specifically is Krista Backus had sent me a message that she's been kicked out and cannot log back in.
Let me see if I can see if that person is still in the room. Councilor Kennedy, could you repeat the name for me, please?
Yep. It's Krista Backus.
Okay, I do have two Kristas. That is not the last name of one of the individuals that is currently in the room.
I see a complaint from a Trudy Dishaw as well, along with Darcy LaRock. I think her name was mentioned already.
Kathy, do we have any more hands raised?
I can check for you, Your Honor. Yes, I do. The next individual is registered as Melissa Brissette, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, and it appears you are all set.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that I feel like it's important to understand that while a lot of citizens are polarized on this topic, that everyone ultimately just wants Ogdensburg to thrive. This decision isn't something that should be rushed, and other avenues to boost revenue can be explored before resulting the ending of employment for our public servants. I feel it is not unreasonable to request to table this resolution in this vote until in-person meetings can occur, and instead of rushing a vote, form a citizen or a government task force with multiple industries represented to brainstorm new city ideas. The idea that this government works for the people is old and outdated. The people's government should be working hand in hand with them. And the people have spoken this past month that terminating this employment of all people that you've put on your list is not the wisest decision at this time. I support everyone that you want to eliminate, and I feel like it is unfair. That's all.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Nat Lambright, and I will unmute that individual now, and it appears you are all set.
Good evening. My name is Nathaniel Lambright. I'm the attorney for the New York State Professional Firefighters, and I also represent the Ogdensburg firefighters. I've had the privilege of representing these brave men for many, many years, and it's my hope that that you guys recognize that New York State still has laws, and we still have contracts. And the moment that you decide that you're just going to breach a contract, there will be repercussions, and the law will ultimately win. If you decide to lay off these firefighters, we will have no choice but to uphold the law, and you'll look back on this night as a night with egg on your face. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Julie Hines, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. And it appears you are all set.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just remember, guys, this is our hometown. Like, it's breaking my heart. Stop fighting and do something. Mike, you gotta change something. We gotta keep our kids safe. Steve, we haven't heard anything from you. Nothing. It's unbelievable. And John Reese, open up, speak to us. Thank you to the rest of you. That's it.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Kathy, is there a limit of how many times people can continue to come so we can, go forward with?
I can't answer that question without researching it, Your Honor. If you'd like to hold, I'm happy to do that.
No, that's all right. Is there any more?
There is one person listed. That person is registered as Brian Polito, and I will unmute that person now. It appears you are in fact muted, and it appears you're fine.
It's been a long night, guys. Congratulations for sitting through it. I think the citizens have spoken very loud and clear. The one thing that's absolutely apparently clear to me is we're running a $20 million plus organization with no strategic plan whatsoever. Had you had a strategic plan, you would have had priorities, you would have had measurable objectives, you would have had timetables, you would have had an accountability plan, and this meeting would never have happened. Please, for the love of God and everybody who pays taxes here, get a strategic plan for the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
At this time, Your Honor, there are no more individuals that have indicated they wish to address council by raising their, I apologize, I just had another come in. This person is registered as Chelsea Bice, and I will unmute that person now. You are free to speak.
Hi, I would just like for you to consider families, wives, everybody that is related to OPD, the fire department, everybody like that during these times that you're asking for these cuts. Also, in regards to that, there are people on council that have taken an oath. And I think that needs to be remembered and to think back to that. It's super important for our city to be safe. And not just the people of the city, but the people outside of the city that they help too. And that was seen today in news articles. And that was seen all over the county, okay? And the amount of support that has also been seen is phenomenal. Therefore, it should really be looked into. Tonight, you have seen such support for these people, but also for our city rec too. Our nurses, everybody like that. People have shown so much support. And if you were to close these places, where are you looking, for, as in the Dubisky Center, if you're looking, to not have those places available, where are you looking for families to have their get-togethers and have, the little things that we do in this area, on the water as well, right? That is a huge area. So I think it's important for you guys to consider that. Think of the families, and think of the people they are impacting during this time.
Thank you.
Kathy, I have a message from Jennifer Stevenson. She says she has her hand raised. I'm not sure. She's not sure if you can see her or not.
I can see Jennifer Stevenson. However, she keeps popping in and out of the list. I apologize. She was actually the next one that I was coming to.
Thank you.
Sure. So the next individual is registered as Jennifer Stevenson, and I will unmute that person now. It appears you are self-muted and you are fine now.
Thank you. I do appreciate a second opportunity to speak to council. Just to let you know, I have extensive experience with working with Zoom, GoToMeeting, Slack meetings, etc. There are opportunities that you can provide to all citizens to speak. So I am asking you to please consider tabling this motion until your next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday. It is only 5 days away. At that time, I suggest that you find 2 city laptops or iPads that you can provide to the 2 counselors that are not shown on the panel for them to be visible to the constituents and citizens of the city, and that you provide a panelist with a direct phone line that a person could speak with a speakerphone to the group. And I think that would solve all of your problems, because then if you have 2 counselors that cannot attend the meeting in full, how do you expect all of us citizens to be able to do that? So I implore you to please do this so everyone can speak and we do not have a meeting that is questionable on our hands. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I do appreciate that I've had a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as James McCarthy, and I will unmute that individual now. Mr. McCarthy, it appears your line is open.
Okay, sorry to butt in again, but I think I only used about a minute of my 2 minutes, and I was shorted 3 minutes from normal speaking time, so I'll make it quick. I'm a department head with the school district. We operate pretty similarly to the way that the city is run. And I know when we have budget sessions at administrative council, we get a direction from the Board of Education with 3 facts. We have expenditures, we have our revenues, and then we have shortfalls. And the board directs us to how much money we're going to use out of the fund balance, how much money we're allowed to raise in taxes, if any. The department head come up with where the cuts come from. Then, when we do make the cuts, us department heads, we have to go to our people and let them know we are losing these positions, so here is how we're going to absorb them. Here's where the extra duties are going to go. We are not going to have a city manager. We do not have a fire chief. And we are not going to have a police chief. We have a hiring freezing process. I don't know who came up with the specific positions that are going to be cut. I don't know whose idea it was, where they pulled those names out of a hat. So when you make these cuts with no department head, who is going to direct the individuals as to the changes in schedules and the changes in duties to make up for these shortfalls? I think this is very short-sighted, and I think you should direct your department heads. If you're looking to save money, give them a dollar amount, let them make the decision. Because I think this procedure is backwards. Thank you.
Thank you again, Jim. Hey, Kathy, any more?
I'm looking right now, Your Honor.
Get it over, because I want to hear. I want to hear.
What about Tiernan Smith? He said he was trying to raise his hand.
One moment, and I will look. Okay. I do see an individual registered as Tiernan Smith with a hand raised. However, that person does not have a microphone. the box is blank. What that indicates to me is that they have not called in on the phone line, nor does the device that they're using have the capabilities for that person to have a microphone.
Kathy, I have been sent a message that someone would like me to read. Can I do that?
I don't want to get into that.
There is a section on the agenda for correspondence. I actually have several letters that I will be reading when we get to that section, so I guess it's the council's preference as to whether they want you to read it now or read it under correspondence.
Let's do it under correspondence. That would be good. Thank you.
I just got another message from Kendra Tynan. She's trying to raise her hand.
I have seen that name pop up several times, Counselor. However, it keeps falling out. It could be the internet connection that she's using. I'm not sure. That's a speculation on my part. But I have seen that name pop up while there were others as I was going through the list.
Okay, thank you.
Anything left, Kathy?
Let me take a peek.
You're doing good, Kathy. It's not easy. Doing good.
At this time, I do not see any hands raised. I apologize. A hand was just raised. This individual is registered as Mary Day, and I will unmute that person now. It appears you are all set.
Hi, I'm Mary Day. I work at 7-Eleven on New York Avenue, and I work the midnight shift. The OPD is very important to me because many people that have come in there are not the type that you really want to deal with. And I've used them quite a few times, and they've even had to save a life or two on the sidewalk. So they are my rock because they patrol up to 6 times or more during the night, and that makes you feel secure when you're there on the edge of a highway in a busy street. So I'm all for these guys, and you guys are going too quick with this. And then you gotta take your time and just remember, my parting words are F4, 3 of you don't need to be following the leader all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
I am checking now. I do have another individual. Person is registered as Julie Ann Cliff, and I will unmute that person now. It appears you are all set.
Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate all of you, and I've been in your seat, and it is very difficult. And just looking at your faces, I can see the difficulty that you're all facing. But I really think there are a couple things to be addressed. I think that all counselors should be able to be seen on camera for this to be a legitimate meeting. And I also think that having a strategic plan would be very important. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Counselor Scamperly, you had mentioned a name of a Kendra Tynan, and she has just popped up 3 times and keeps disappearing. I'm not sure why, but I did just see her hand raised, and now it is gone. So I'm not quite sure why.
Would you want her to text you and you read it in correspondence, Dan?
No, she can email Kathy.
I'm trying
Any
to
more?
see if I can find Kendra Tynan. If you'd like, I can unmute her so that she could attempt to speak.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just trying to give everybody a chance to speak who wants to speak.
Kendra Tynan, you are unmuted if you'd like to address council.
Yes, I would. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I feel for all involved. I know that you all have to make tough decisions. But also, I want to ask, what about the 170 employees that have just lost their jobs at Claxton Heparin? That's just one thought. And also, I know that everyone that has called in favor of the few counselors. And I just want to say, I'm sure that other people aren't calling in because they're afraid of the repercussions, that if they do say something, that it will not work for them. So I just wanted to make that point as well. And I just hope you all come to a decision that will benefit Ogdensburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra. How we doing, Kathy? We got some more?
Let me see. At this time, Your Honor, I do not see any additional hands raised.
Okay. Yes. We'll move on to correspondence. Oh,
There is one more, Your Honor. It just popped up. Would you like to take it?
sure.
All right. The individual is registered as Colleen Ashley Mayette, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted and you are all set. Colleen Ashley Mayette. Unfortunately, Your Honor, it appears as though she's having some difficulty. She's now self-muted and unmuted now.
Is there anyone else? And we'd go on and come back?
There is. I'll move on to the next person. That person is registered as Heather Shaver, and I will unmute that person now. You are self-muted, and you are all set now.
Hi, I just want to thank the council for one, but I also want to say that if you're going to make decisions on our future, and this is for our future, everything has to be very well thought out. It has to have a plan of action. All the research has to have been done. If not all the research has been done, it's like building a house with no plans, or building a house out of twigs when you're trying to build it out of brick. The house is going to fall down. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. How are we doing, Kathy?
I'll go back to Colleen Ashley Mayette, and I'm going to unmute you now. You are self-muted, so you would need, it appears you're unmuted now. It appears that Colleen Ashley Mayette's line is unmuted and open. However, we can't hear her.
Are there any we can go to and come back again? Try again?
At this time, that is the last one that I see with a hand raised. Oh, I apologize. Well, another just popped up and that quick disappeared.
Okay.
I did catch the name, however, so let me see if, yeah, I can't, unfortunately, I don't see that person is here anymore. So the only person existing right now with a hand raised is Colleen Ashley Mayette, and we have unmuted. So I'm not sure how you want to proceed, Your Honor.
Well, I guess we have to move on to correspondence. We do have some correspondence, Kathy?
Yes, we have several pieces of correspondence. Would you prefer that Counselor Kennedy read what she has prior to me or after?
Whatever Nicole would like, Counselor Kennedy would like. Which
That's fine. It's up to Kathy. It does not matter whether it's at the end or the beginning.
Okay, I have several, so I'll begin.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, my name is Andrew P. Wells, and I am a resident of Ogdensburg, as well as a former Chief of Police. I have never addressed Council in any capacity other than official, but now feel compelled due to the disturbing path that I see you traveling. I cannot recall more poorly thought out, hasty, or just plain uninformed decisions being made by newly elected officials as a group. To force out a competent city manager in the midst of a national crisis and make no plans for a successor for the remainder of the year is ill-advised on every level. Our charter does not describe a strong mayor-council form of government. To turn the reins over to novices in this climate without effective administrative support is a scary proposition. Now we are also losing a talented young chief of police, at least in part to a dysfunctional relationship with council. Recent council focus on police overtime and the farming out of dispatch duties to the county are not new and have been visited often in the past as dictated by fiscal prudence. These issues are more complicated than at first glance. To hear certain statements from mayor and certain councilors regarding these issues proves to me their lack of true understanding and unwillingness to conduct research before speaking. The recent use of the city attorney at considerable taxpayer expense by some council members, with other councilors being kept in the dark, is appalling. Also, as a former city department head, I know that in times of fiscal crisis, personnel must be scrutinized. Adding the city assessor to the list of potential cuts without an articulated backup plan is at the very least poor optics for Mayor Skelly, whose position was well known prior to election. I fear for the future of our city as this sad list goes on and on. Please prove me wrong. Respectfully submitted, Andrew P. Wells.
Thank you.
Next, Mayor and Council, oftentimes it isn't what is said, but how it is said. Not what is done, but how it is done. Now is not the time for rash decisions. There's too much that is currently up in the air. The way this council has operated since the new councilors have come aboard has been a disgrace, and it seems to be continuing. The city may have to make several cuts, but not at this absolute moment. You can't cut all these positions during a global pandemic when people can't attend meetings while at the same time trying to push through an agenda on an irregular meeting night, no less on 48 hours notice. This is a disgusting abuse of power. These actions give the appearance that members of the council are trying to do this under the cover of night, giving limited time for Ogdensburg residents to express their First Amendment rights. Governments of all shapes and sizes need to be as transparent as possible, but this council has decided to do the opposite. What the council should be doing is laying out all the facts for everyone to see. If you want residents on your side, you need to build a case why these are necessary, not just because two people say so. There are serious issues and the city needs serious dialogue. Most of the angst is directed to the public safety cuts, but besides these safety concerns, getting rid of essential government services is dangerous. All these positions are there for a reason. There is no bloat. The city needs an assessor. Just because a member has a grudge against the assessor isn't a ticket to get rid of the position. City revenue derives from this office. It is vital. Closing the city pool is a recipe for disaster, especially while at the same time laying off 4 police officers. This will not end well. The council really needs to think through before any decision is voted on. The council should be contacting elected officials in higher offices, namely Elise Stefanik, with these facts to try and stave off as much damage as possible. Money is going to be made available from the federal government. It is inevitable, and Ogdensburg needs a slice of the pie. I fear some of these cuts may be premature. For some reason, this council thinks it has a mandate to do what it wants because it was elected in, but only 20% of city residents voted, a painfully low percentage. Shame on those that didn't vote. This could have all been avoided if people weren't lazy, but we are stuck now. A few of these councilors ran a very populist campaign, irresponsibly saying things that people wanted to hear with no plan to get these things done, reminds me of someone else. I caution to the council to make the right moves for the entire city, not those people who voted you in. Vendettas and slights have no place in government, also reminds me of someone else. I worry the decisions this board makes will set the city back 10 years or more. Eric Monette. To whom it may concern, I am writing in support of the Ogdensburg Police and Fire Departments, the Ogdensburg Department of Public Works, and the many others listed in the resolution proposed by the Ogdensburg City Council. The men and women of these departments are part of the lifeblood of our community, the parents of many of our students, and deserve much more respect than the treatment they are receiving from Mayor Skelly and several Ogdensburg City Councilors. In addition, I am alarmed at the short-sightedness of the Council's resolution to reduce costs through layoffs and its timeline for approval that would be unrealistic even in normal times, let alone during this pandemic. As we continue to see the number of drug arrests and meth lab busts rise, it is not a good time to consider cutting 4 officer positions in the next 2 weeks. The department is already shorthanded with 2 open positions and 2 out sick from the effects of meth exposure. With these cuts, response times would grow, current investigations would take longer or be put on hold, crime will increase, and overtime, which is on the chopping block, will certainly rise. In addition, it would most certainly result in the loss of our school resource officer position. Officer Vine has cultivated trusting relationships with our students and has worked closely with the teachers and staff during his time with us. The relationships he has built have had an impact on several students and their families, keeping them in school. In regards to the Ogdensburg Fire Department, the 4 proposed layoffs, in addition to the 4 already agreed upon through retirements, will result in an added workload to those that are left, potentially increasing the amount of overtime incurred. Safety issues will most certainly creep up with the burden of the workload shared by fewer people. The Department of Public Works will be greatly impacted by the loss of positions within the Recreation Department as well. The already understaffed department does not have enough manpower to add that workload on top of their present duties. The upkeep of the city will deteriorate and our children's access to meaningful recreation activities will decrease since the attention to daily tasks will have to be split. Both departments should be left intact at this time to best serve the citizens of Ogdensburg and our students. As educators, my colleagues and I know that the well-being of our students is our primary responsibility. We might assume that our civic leaders would in turn recognize the same for our community and its employees, especially during this crisis. Overall, any loss of well-paying American middle-class jobs is catastrophic. The ramifications of this loss will have a ripple effect on the entire community, with fewer people being able to support any local businesses, let alone the small family-owned businesses that are already struggling at this time. Actions like the one proposed in Council's resolution are short-sighted and reckless at best. It is time to come together as a community to support our own and demand reasonable, open discussion about how best to handle the present crisis facing our city. In solidarity, Bob Ladisser, President, Ogdensburg Education Association. Dear Mayor Skelly, I'm writing to request that you reconsider support for any legislation that results in the elimination of police officers, firefighters, emergency dispatchers, or any first responder in the city of Ogdensburg. As you know, I am ultimately responsible for all prosecutions within our county's borders. As you also know, sweeping legislation placing additional time-consuming obligations on law enforcement went into effect January 1st, 2020. The import and impact of those changes has been understandably lost during a pandemic unprecedented in our lifetimes, but will be there when we eventually phase into an open community, a change we all hope is possible sooner rather than later. With all that in mind, I ask you to reconsider eliminating positions, as those losses could make it much harder to fight injustice. The import of Ogdensburg to this county cannot be understated. I am confident that keeping the city safe is a concern we hold in common. Below, please find a request to reconsider, as well as the perspective that frames that request. I would hope that given my duties and our shared interest in protecting the city and citizens of Ogdensburg, that my input may be of assistance as you consider these proposed measures and the position you take on them. As is the case with many parts of the county, the police, as well as vital dispatchers communicating with first responders, including firefighters, here in Ogdensburg, are under constant pressure. The police in particular are often the most visible face of government for everyday citizens. They put their lives on the line and their egos aside to protect us from crime and disorder, making justice possible through the fair, impartial, and restrained use of their authority. To eliminate a substantial number of first responders will create inevitable consequences. It threatens the peace, morale, and the ability to respond quickly and effectively, both to emergencies and to the many aspects of their jobs that go unnoticed. That is, the Ogdensburg Police Department's role in maintaining order and preventing crime extends far beyond merely arresting lawbreakers. Here, the police have created and nurtured partnerships with this community, including our residents, our businesses, our faith-based organizations, our schools, our civic organizations, and our neighborhoods. Their role in promoting peace in the community and fighting injustice through the justice system cannot be overstated. Clearly, the presence and involvement of OPD in this city extends far and wide, wider than most would think. So please consider not only the obvious, that when there is an emergency, they go. Last year alone, the Ogdensburg City Police Department effectuated over 600 arrests. They patrolled the city streets day and night, while also being an integral part of many time-intensive, long-term investigations. Many of these investigations revolve around the manufacture of methamphetamine and the sale of narcotics in the city. As a county and a country, we are facing an opioid epidemic that is ravaging our communities. Removal of the individuals who respond to protect law-abiding citizens and in some cases to administer life-saving treatment would be devastating to the city. Also consider that when there is a dispute, the police help settle it. They have training to de-escalate those situations. Further, the sad truth is people die alone. When that happens, our city police officers respond. They go in and find the body, dead or dying. Often they must sit with and hold those lonely people. They cannot fake it, they must care, and they must handle the situation with grace. Typically, the public never knows. These police officers never ask for, and no one offers them credit. They simply do their duty. That silent heroism happens during the course of their work because a normal day at the office for them is simply not normal. They check on the welfare of the city's infirm and at risk. They respond to many mental health calls that do not result in arrest, but often place the officers in harm's way. Finally, they help reduce nuisances throughout the city in every aspect of life, and they assist us in the full range of repairs and concerns we have that are too numerous to count. There is no prize, and the officers do not ask for recognition. However, the problems they encounter are often complex, serious, and important. Dealing with these problems requires skill, prudence, judgment, knowledge, and officers to provide it. In conclusion, to keep the city safe, the city must maintain their presence in the community. They must continue to hold themselves to the highest standard. We have watched them time after time exercise a commitment to the people of this city so great they are willing to risk their lives and health for it. And they do. They do it every single day without praise or riches. We call them, and thankfully they answer. It would be a dark day if they did not. I hope that day never comes. That is why I'm asking you, from the perspective of my obligation, my observation, and my heartfelt concern, to reconsider. These are not trivial services. The men and women who provide them have a calling. They could not endure the pressure, lack of credit, or trauma of this work if they did not. I understand the many responsibilities you have to the city of Ogdensburg. I believe you would agree that the safety of your constituents would be at the top of that list. As such, I hope that this letter assists you moving forward. I hope that you reconsider eliminating any police officer, firefighter, or emergency dispatcher positions. As district attorney, my job is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, enough to gain perspective. Also, as district attorney, I have a duty to offer my perspective on issues of law enforcement when they may assist. Finally, Mayor, if you have any questions or concerns for me, do not hesitate to make contact at your convenience. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Gary Passwood, District Attorney, St. Lawrence County. Mayor Skelly, the proposed layoffs you have put forward will cause all of us to be less safe and will also cause affected families to lose their health insurance coverage during a pandemic. It appears that absolutely no thought was put into the consequences of such a reckless and impactful move. The budget has been funded and passed for 2020, and the city manager put forward a well-thought-out and reasonable plan to account for projected lost sales tax revenue due to the pandemic. This additional action then, by you and your 3 assured votes on council, is unnecessary at best and heartless at worst. Federal aid will be coming, or municipalities like Ogdensburg will not survive. To make such severe cuts with the thought that maybe the aid won't come is irrational. The time put into coming up with and justifying these layoffs would be better spent in lobbying to help ensure that federal aid does come. It's readily apparent that you're using the environment brought on by the pandemic as a means to try to fulfill your completely unrealistic, especially now, campaign pledge of a 25% tax cut. This callous action alone shows that you're unfit to lead this city. In addition, you're planning to throw highly trained and valuable members of our public safety departments out during the most threatening public health crisis we've ever faced. And on top of that, you'd be cutting off their health insurance in the midst of this health crisis, which borders on criminal. A total of 14 people on our department alone, including family members, would lose their coverage. In closing, incompetence and bitter cruelty are not what we need in our community leaders, especially in these challenging times. True leaders do what's right and just, as opposed to simply settling scores, especially during a worldwide pandemic. One last note, laying off 4 members of our department will result in a considerable increase in our overtime costs and will clearly violate the terms of our collective bargaining agreement, an all-around losing proposition for the city. Ogdensburg Firefighters, Local 1799. Dear members of the Ogdensburg City Council, we have just been advised that the council is voting tonight on the possible layoffs of a number of city police officers. This may address short-term budget gaps, but will have long-term effects on the safety of your city and its residents. We believe this would be a terrible idea that may never be recovered from. You spend considerable tax money recruiting, hiring, and training the police officers on your force. If they are laid off, they will seek employment elsewhere and possibly never return. With inevitable retirements and other employee separations, you will be forced to hire and train new officers at considerable cost. You, in essence, would be paying to fill the same officer positions at least twice. We write with direct knowledge of the city of Ogdensburg. I am a retired state police zone sergeant, and my first assignment was State Police Canton, just 18 miles down State Route 68. I have always had great respect for the men and women of your very good police department, and a number of your officers went on to be highly regarded state troopers. Our PBA president, Ryan Law, is a New York State University police officer at SUNY New Paltz and a native of Hermon, New York. His parents still live in St. Lawrence County. The oldest and most compelling justification for government is as protector, protecting citizens from violence. Failure to do that most basic function makes one question why that particular government exists in the first place. We write to you to ask you not to lay off professional police officers who have dedicated their careers to protecting their fellow citizens. Please find alternative measures to lay off. We don't discount your financial problems during this pandemic, but certainly there must be a better way to manage your budget than by endangering your citizens. Thank you for reading this. Sincerely, Daniel DeFrederick, Executive Director and Council, Police Benevolent Association of New York State. Mayor and Council, I will not get into personal and attack the character our city councilors like some have, because that serves no purpose and it only divides all of us even more. Instead, I would like to respectfully ask the council to please reconsider the decision they are about to make regarding the cuts to our city employees. I know the city is suffering a difficult time financially right now, but these firefighters, police officers, and other city employees are the backbone of our community, and they are a part of the good that we have left in Ogdensburg. If we lose these people, then we lose a lot more than just jobs. We are losing good people in our community, and we are putting the future of Ogdensburg at risk. We are already seeing businesses, jobs, and young people leave our city at a rapid rate. And if we make these cuts, then this is only going to further the damage. Good people can make a difference in this community will decide to start their lives elsewhere, and we cannot afford to keep losing these people. I have always felt safe and secure in Ogdensburg because we look out for each other, and our firefighters, police officers, and other city employees are members of our community who help protect and secure the place we all call home. I know there was a goal set in the beginning to make taxes decrease by 25%, and that is an amazing goal to strive for. I also know that it may seem like if that goal is not met, then the councilors who set the goal would not be keeping a promise. I promise I promise that you can recover and maintain the faith of your voters if you do not meet your 25% goal right away. But I can also promise you that it will be a lot more difficult to recover with your people and voters if you make this decision to cut our local heroes and city employees during these extremely trying times. Please make the right decision and do the right thing by the people who live in the community that you serve. I wish the best for you all, and please stay safe and healthy. Thank you for your time. Mark Miller. Mayor and Council, I'm writing to show my support for the Ogdensburg Fire Department. With being the chief of the Briar Hill Fire Department, I know the need to have proper staffing. I think it's a bad idea to eliminate these positions as they prove to be a vital role in the Ogdensburg community. They also help neighboring districts when called upon, as well being in the St. Lawrence County Mutual Aid Plan. Thanks, Sean McCauley. Council members, I am a career firefighter in New York State. I have 27 years of experience in the fire service, 15 as a career firefighter and lieutenant. I am also a New York State fire instructor. I have seen and continue to see public safety from many different angles. I'm currently reading about your proposed plan to cut 4 firefighters and 4 police officers from your budget in an effort to balance a budget that, from my perspective, appears to have been mismanaged for some time. I find this to be outraging and, in fact, disgusting. In the midst of a global pandemic in which politicians every day sing praises for, quote, frontliners because it makes you look good, now you're going to attempt to lay off 4 firefighters/EMTs who are there for the citizens of your community 24/7. This pandemic isn't even over yet, and you've already forgotten about the people that step up every day for you and your city with no questions asked. That's disgraceful. The thing interesting about the fire service that most people don't realize is how much the job has changed. The fire service started out just going to fires. That was it. Over the years, it's taken on more in areas of expertise. Vehicle extradition, knowledge on alternative fuel and hybrid vehicles, rope rescue, confined space rescue, machinery rescue, hazardous materials response, water and ice rescue, rapid intervention training, dealing with gas and carbon monoxide emergencies, and on top of that, emergency medical response, and now COVID. If it's not a police matter, we handle it, no questions asked. We are very little for added responsibility or dangers. Just that we have the resources we need to handle whatever comes our way. That being said, our best resource is well-trained people. We can't do our job by ourselves. Firefighting is hard, dangerous work. There are standards that need to be followed, and we can't provide the service communities deserve without people. Cutting staffing of an already small department is dangerous and irresponsible. That's not even addressing how morally wrong this is in the face of all that's been going on. You expected these people to step up and care for you and your families during this pandemic, and just like that, you're willing to cast them aside, all in an attempt to balance an already mismanaged budget compounded by the very pandemic you want them to protect you from. Let that sink in for a moment. Do the right thing. This is not an issue that is unique to your city. This is a challenge statewide and beyond. Take care of the people that take care of you, and we'll all get through this. Respectfully, Brian Davidson. Ogdensburg City Council, we are writing this letter in support of the first responders in Ogdensburg. We request that you reevaluate your stance on removing the positions of 4 officers and 4 firefighters. In these undefined times, the only thing that is certain is the dedication these brave men and women have toward their community. While many things are changing in our area, the willingness of these officers and firefighters to protect and serve has not wavered. We understand that these are difficult financial times, but cutting positions vital to the health and safety for those you represent is a decision that has complicated consequences. Taking away positions from the police department and the fire department is ignoring the inherent risk that these men and women face on a daily basis. You are suggesting that they adjust to handle these risks with less resources, but will expect the same result. Officers responding to the unknown deserve sufficient backup to handle and de-escalate situations. They should not be exposed to situations where they are outnumbered and don't have resources necessary to handle every situation that they encounter. Firefighters deserve the appropriate resources to combat fires effectively, administer first aid during medical emergencies, and rescue victims from hazardous conditions like crashed or overturned vehicles. A reduction in force will increase response time, handcuff your departments in how they operate during a crisis, and place your community at risk. We stand together with the Ogdensburg Police and Fire Department and ask that you reconsider your position. Respectfully, David Murtaugh, Area Vice President, National Treasury Employees Union, Chapter 138, Northern New York. To Mr. Mayor and Council members, the resolution before you, if approved, ignores the city manager's recommendations given to you in writing at the council meeting of April 27, 2020, of more than $400,000 in savings with virtually no layoffs of city employees. Her recommendations would provide breathing room for now and allow you to develop a plan to deal with future reality as it becomes known. Instead, if the current resolution is adopted, you will be rushing into drastic change and making the city's situation worse before you even know the facts. The lost revenues you are projecting are based on questionable estimates and guesswork by various sources, not on a future reality that anyone really yet understands. There appears to be no strategy or plan guiding the council. All you are offering is a nihilistic scorched earth policy of cut, 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 with no consideration of the immediate and future impacts on the city. As a recent newspaper headline stated, quote, no fire chief, no police chief, no city manager, end quote. Sadly, to that headline, I would add, quote, no city, end quote. Sincerely, Douglas McDonald, City of Ogdensburg President. Those are all of the letters that I have, Your Honor. I am going to unmute all the members of council now. So I'm almost there. I apologize.
Would Councilor Kennedy like to read?
Yes, I was just waiting to make sure that was okay. I have one and then one just came in as well. This is from Morgan Barr, written by her brother, Josh Briggs. This is long, but please bear with me. Ogdensburg is my hometown. Many of you know me, some may not. I've visited each year since I've moved away at 18 years old, and I have steadily watched my hometown circle the proverbial toilet bowl ever since. My extended family lives and works in the city and surrounding areas. I have to say a few things that I hope get back to this mayor and whoever else happens to agree with his lunacy he's proposing. But first, I need to share a little. I have been in law enforcement for the past 17 years. I have occupied positions from beat cop to narcotics investigator to task force officer and federal agent. I have worked all over the country in those capacities. My father worked for OPD for the majority of his adult life and the entirety of my childhood before he transferred to the state and eventually retired. Needless to say, I've been a cop in one form or another and have been around cops my entire life. That being said, the cuts being proposed by Mayor Skelly are dangerous. I understand, as we all clearly do, that changes need to be made. This is not the way to do it. If this succeeds, it will be at the expense of the citizens of Ogdensburg. Firefighter positions aside, I'll speak what I want. To take a 29-man or woman department and remove 4 officers and 4 dispatchers takes 8 full-time police officers off the streets of Ogdensburg. The 4 you cut and the 4 you need to remove from the road to do the dispatch job every shift, every day, because you cut them too. There is a rampant drug problem in the city, and that is not, nor has it ever been, a secret. The city of Ogdensburg is the state of New York and methamphetamine lab in the entire state. That is not including other calls for service police respond to every day. Vehicle and traffic enforcement, DWIs, petty, non-violent, and violent crime, as well as property crimes. When I was a kid growing up, shootings and stabbings didn't happen. Murders of any kind were rare. Drug dealers consisted of the local pothead dealing to his idiot friends, and meth and harder drugs certainly weren't on the radar. All the crime mentioned have consistently increased in frequency and severity for the past decade or more, and the city PD are the ones you rely on to try to fight it. One of the concerns cited by the mayor is the overtime budget. I can tell you firsthand that it takes a mountain of work to investigate, raid, dismantle, process, and prosecute a single meth lab or dealer location. Now, to that, add the magnitude mentioned, that the city has more of them than any other locale in the state of New York, as well as added responsibilities of a police department. and you have a recipe for a ridiculous amount of overtime expense. What's not being told to you is that the city likely receives federal money to offset those expenses. So that money, typically returned to the form of grants, will not come back to the city budget unless it's first spent and you have a net return of nearly zero. With less cops on the street and dispatchers to send them to your aid, the drug and crime rates in the city are going to skyrocket and people are going to die. Yes, those overdoses will have slower response time. Those dealers will peddle that crap to more kids before they're caught and prosecuted. Those one-pot meth labs and needles the police routinely find in city parks and dispose of will take longer to get to, and citizens will die in the process. To propose cutting first responders in a city that so clearly needs them is irresponsible and downright dangerous. Instead of dreaming of ways to cut funding and jobs, how about city council start working on ways to increase capital? Stop killing every money-making adventure that's proposed to them and get rid of some of the red tape that causes people to move and start businesses elsewhere. Bring in some jobs somehow and you'll have more people earning an income, buying property and paying taxes instead of sitting on their butts and increasing the demand for the drugs that caused this whole crap storm in the first place. If you're a proponent of the mayor's proposal, speak up and we can discuss all the ways you're wrong. But you're in here and own it. Let's chat about it. And the second one that I have, just give me 1 second. I'm trying to navigate between different. This is from Melissa Brissette. It's no surprise that people come as far as New York City and New Jersey to smuggle their drugs and take advantage of citizens who have fallen hostage of the opioid epidemic. Word is spreading quickly that Ogdensburg is the place to make, sell, and distribute narcotics. The second, it is known that our police force is handicapped, and you can guarantee more traffickers will be on their way up 81 to jump on calling Ogdensburg their newest territory. With drugs will come guns as well. This is a danger to the handicapped force when you take away 4 officers. The lives of our law enforcement and the lives of our neighbors depend on keeping staffing levels where they are now. And that's all I have.
Thank you for reading those. And that's it for correspondence. And that brings us to items for council action. Our only item for business is a resolution directing the city manager to implement cost reductions in the 2020 budget. This will be bill number 37, and I will introduce it. Whereas the city is projected to lose in excess of $500,000 in sales tax and real property tax revenue as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the state has also warned that it will need to cut over $400,000 in aid to municipalities for Ogdensburg as a result of the financial crisis caused by the pandemic, and whereas St. Lawrence County is also threatening to reduce sales tax collections to the city of Ogdensburg under an expiring sales tax agreement, now therefore be it resolved that it is necessary and imperative that the city adjust its budget to compensate for this loss of revenue, to ensure the city remains financially solvent. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to implement the following cost reductions in the 2020 adopted budget. 4 layoffs in the police department effective May 15th. 4 layoffs in the fire department effective May 15th. Eliminate 2 administrative positions in the recreation department effective May 15th. All functions of the department will be assumed by existing staff at Public Works. A 40% reduction in police department overtime, which amounts to $114,000 of the allocated $285,000 overtime budget. Leave manager position vacant until the end of 2020 fiscal year. Lay off the assessor effective May 15th. Eliminate 1 housing inspector position effective May 15th. Implement recommended cuts, including engineering consultants, city hall maintenance, central service contractual expense, pumper truck payment, recreational capital, construction parks, equipment, and capital construction, fishing derby, landfill closure, no summer recreation camp, and pool closure. These items total $210,000 and $986. An extension of the current hiring freeze through December 31st, 2020. Be it further resolved that the manager is hereby directed to implement these budget reductions beginning May 15th as specified above, and that a complete report of the progress with these reductions shall be delivered to the council at its May 11th regularly scheduled meeting. I so move.
I will second that.
Is there
Who's
any
that?
discussion?
John,
Who's seconding it?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to amend this resolution. Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make the motion to remove item number 2. I'd like to also remove item number 6. And in item number 3, I would like to change the wording from eliminate to layoff.
I'll second that.
Is there discussion?
Just for clarity here, you're looking to lay off 2 administrative positions in number 3, Steve? Just
Instead of
3?
eliminating. Yes, instead of eliminating.
That doesn't apply to the other numbers that you recommended as well, correct?
The other numbers, I want to remove them from the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I'll tell you what, I think this whole resolution is illegal. I think it violates Article 3, C9B, as was pointed out by Mr. Price, and I'll just recite that for everybody. Appointments and removal. Neither the city council nor any of its members, including the mayor, shall in any manner dictate the appointment or removal of an administrative officer or employees whom the city manager or any of his subordinates are empowered to appoint. The city council may express its views fully and freely, discuss with the city manager anything pertaining to the appointment or removal of such officers and employees. I think it's pretty crystal clear that it violates the charter. There was a question tonight by some folks, Pete Havens, Brian Polito, Doug Loeffler, I know amongst a few, asked about an attorney to be present. I'd like to make it known that I did ask the attorney to be present. The attorney wanted at least 4 counselors to approve this. Counselors Powers, Kennedy, and myself were the only 3 that asked for his attendance to discuss legal opinion here.
Did you ask any of us?
I'd also like to state, I'm talking, Mayor. Please. I'd also like to state that I asked for a legal opinion on the resolution in regards to C9B, and he also refused unless he had the request by 4. And again, Councilors Kennedy, Powers, and myself were the only 3 who wanted it. I don't know why the other 4, I even asked you, please give consent. I'd also like to point out that under the charter, AR 17 F 6.3, city attorney to approve. City attorney shall approve all local laws, ordinance, and resolutions as to form and legality. It's crystal clear. This is a violation as well as the city charter. This resolution is clearly dictating the removal of officers and employees. He refused to give us an opinion on it, and that itself. Besides that, one more thing. The people have spoken tonight. Not a single person has spoken to passing this resolution. Everybody that has spoken has talked about how this resolution is detrimental to the safety, health, and welfare of our community. With the fire and police cuts, they've spoken to undermining of our social fabric of this community. With the other positions, the code assessors, parks and rec, there was much discussion about the children in our community, quality of life. Are we going to tell people they won't have an opportunity to challenge their assessment? This position is mandated by state law. Her work does not end May 15th. The position is active all year long, especially from now until the end of the year. Besides, again, these positions can only be cut by changing state law or the city charter. And again, talking about the assessor and the parks and rec directors. We also have about a $600,000 plan put together by our city manager to address potential loss of revenue. Also, we have a fund balance, as was suggested tonight by people, and federal grants on the horizon to address the very issues that we're facing here as municipalities under this epidemic going on. And so I'm going to vote no on this resolution, and that's what I wanted to say. I'm going to listen to the people of Ogdensburg. Thank you.
So, any further?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Go ahead, Nicole.
I just wanted to, I'm also going to vote no. I think that's very well known. I am voting no because we've sat here for over 3 hours now and we've listened to the people of Ogdensburg. Those people of Ogdensburg put us in office to be their voice. We cannot be the voice for certain people. We have to look out for the general public that is speaking to us. And they're telling us that they're scared for their safety. This is more than numbers. These are people. And I think before we can put people's safety, we need to put together a better plan than this. I was not involved at all in this resolution. I was not asked. I was not considered. Neither was Dan or neither was Mike. This is not a team plan. This is the 4 people on this council that came up with a plan. This is not a team effort. This can be done better. It can be done better with advice and the entire council, not just certain individuals. We are all elected officials for this city, and we all deserve the right to be able to come up with a resolution better than this because my 5-year-old could. That's all I have to say.
Any further discussion, Mike? Would you
Yes.
care to?
Yes. I don't support the original resolution. I don't support the amended resolution. I question a couple of the bullet points in the resolution. I pay very close attention to state operations and state fiscal pictures. I don't know where that 400K is coming from in aid, and we're looking at potential federal stimulus coming down the road for local municipalities such as Ogdensburg. The reducing sales tax collections, I believe that's inaccurate, as well as the county has addressed the city and suggested to keep a 1-year suggestion there at the same rate of revenue coming in. And more importantly, at the bottom, be it further resolved that the managers hereby directed to implement these budget reductions beginning May 15th and as specified above, that a complete report of progress with these reductions shall be delivered to the council on the May 11th regular scheduled meeting is an unlawful order. Plain and simple. Violates the charter, violates everything that how we're supposed to operate. I'm not going to piggyback Dan and Nicole's comments. The emails that we shared after we were directed by you, Mike, to reach out to the city attorney if we have any information that we feel is necessary for us to be able to represent our constituents. We did, in fact, do that, and we included all of the council in our emails, back and forth with Mr. Goldie and Mr. Burrows. That is fact. You can't say that we didn't suggest that we did that we didn't support or share the information. Either you didn't read them or you haven't opened them yet, because they're there, and they were all last Thursday afternoon before the postponement of last Thursday's forgive me, I'm not familiar. Yeah, last Thursday's meeting that was postponed. All those emails are in there. We did request on the record to have an attorney be present for some of the concerns that we've had, which are obvious violations to the charter. I'm not going to sit here and cite the numbers and the administrative regs that have been neglected in the operations of this city as of late, but it's pretty evident to me. I believe the manner in which this resolution was done is a slap in the face to all of the city employees and department heads affected by this, with no blanket discussions. Simple labor management meetings with unions are par for the course. That's proper labor discussions. That's fair labor practice. And I believe there might even be clauses in their contracts that support that. If this resolution passes, I want to be on the record to suggest the violations of the charters, and I'm going to ask this council to support a separate attorney to look into the potential violations that are before us and the unlawful order given to the city manager if this resolution were to pass in its main form and or amended. And if not, I will hire an attorney myself to review it, because every attorney that I speak to off the record has basically said that these are violations. We haven't gotten an opinion from our law firm, Conboy McKay, and their direction that they answer to a majority, which from what we understand wasn't a true majority in any of the conversations that were had, based off the simple fact that there wasn't a show of hands, and any meetings that or phone conversations that were had with the city attorney were not present for counselors. And if there were 4 counselors involved, you're in violation of open meetings law for the simple fact that you held a meeting with a quorum, getting direction. And on last Monday's meeting, one of the counselors, I believe it was Counselor Reese, said that there was a majority bill have yet to receive to answer to any of the constituents that asked me what happened with that $5,400. These are obvious, blatant violations of the city charter and regulations. You've heard from charter commission people that helped put this thing together and amend it over the period of time. Again, the people have spoken. No communications with any department heads or labor. It's rude, it's ignorant, and it's just a slap in the face to the people that work for this city. And more importantly, I find it interesting that correspondence goes past 2 minutes when we're not allowing other people to get their full 5 minutes in, according to administrative regulations.
That it?
I'll jump in, I guess. Why not? As far as the charter violations, I don't believe they exist. As far as the amendment to the resolution, I would not have amended it if I didn't research it, and nor would I ever do anything in violation of the charter or any illegalities as far as a resolution. That was why the amendment was put out. Other than that, I got a simple statement I just like to read that was kind of my thoughts of where my ideas are coming from, for what it's worth. Here it goes. Ogdensburg's facing a perfect fiscal storm. As a result, as revenue losses are threatening to overwhelm our city and surrounding areas. There are many unknowns surrounding our present situation and what actions we should take going forward. The city manager reported the potential loss of sales tax revenue ranging from 4 to 12%. That represents a $150,000 loss on the low end and a $446,000 on the high end. New York State, just last week, was projecting a $13 to $15 billion loss. The governor himself stated that he's looking at a 20% or more reduction to state aid to the city could be forthcoming. That represents another potential $465,000. That's a total loss of over $900,000. And now let's look at the Ogdensburg property tax revenue. It's also expected to be down. And We as counselors don't know what tomorrow, next week, or at the end of 2020 is going to look like. But as a council, we have a responsibility to make decisions that position this city to continue to provide services, even if that means temporary reduction in our workforce, as other communities are doing during this crisis. 2 of the 4 proposed police layoffs are or just presently in the police academy. I didn't even know that they existed in the academy until last Thursday when I inquired with the city manager. I met with the city manager. I met with the chief of police in early January. We talked about the department. Nobody felt that that was a necessary fact to bring up. So the 2 that were in the academy, that even on the road, they don't have anything to do with manpower at this point because they don't count. And the losses that I previously stated in property tax, Watertown has already stated that they have a possibility of they're going to go between 6 and 7% increase, and they have multiple layoffs. Other cities around the state, Schenectady, they're looking at 20-some police officers and firemen. It represents 58% of the budget, and these decisions need to be made, aren't taken lightly, as our city has been in financial difficulties for many years, and the COVID-19 pandemic has only added to the further destruction of our financial picture. We have no choice but to get out ahead of it. And as I stated in the resolution, these are temporary layoffs. As I changed the one section that had eliminate in it, a layoff. And, we can kick the can down the road and say, well, we might get federal aid, we might get this and we might get that. But even for what we're doing isn't gonna put us within reach of climbing out. Unless the governor decides that he's gonna give all municipalities a lot of money. And there's a lot of things going on in the city. And you can turn a blind eye, or you can just say, it's like I said, as far as I'm concerned, these are temporary layoffs, and it's a solution, a temporary solution to get us down the road. That's it.
Can I make a suggestion that for everyone on the phone, please state our names before we speak? I had several people just message and ask who was actually doing the speaking. So just for any discussion going further as a council.
This is Council. I just want to make a couple comments. We've all been through a lot as a community with the virus. It's all a shock to all of us. I feel really bad about what we've all been through in our businesses, and it's all changed our life, and the city's not immune to that. It's going to affect our sales tax. It'll probably affect our property tax, and it could affect our state aid. It's going to reduce revenues that we use to provide services. So I think we're acting responsibly, and we're getting out in front of this and taking care of our fiscal house as a highly distressed community. We don't need further distress. In addition, we're already one of the highest tax cities in New York State. And the projections for the next 5 years, without any real property tax assessment increases, our taxes are projected to go up 45%. From $20 a thousand to $29 a thousand. That's just not sustainable for a city that's already losing people and it's losing wealth. And this pandemic just adds to and exacerbates the problem. So I really feel that we need to move forward. I think we're acting responsibly. As Steve mentioned, 2 of the police officers aren't even certified yet. We didn't know about those. There was actually 3 hires on December 23rd after we won a major election, as well as 2 major contracts that were put in place after the people had spoken. We're still going to have 24 police officers, people. We're going to be safe. That's more than any department in all of St. Lawrence County, every community in St. Lawrence County. So I support this.
Anyone else?
Just a quick comment, and Councilor Fisher, and Councilor Reich, we're not going to sit here and discount this, but this is worldwide. This isn't just Ogdensburg. Watertown and Schenectady are dealing with city budgets, and what was recommended by many in discussions and in open meeting or in the open forum for citizens to speak into some correspondence is some of the recommended cuts that were put forth by the city manager to offset a little bit until we get a clear picture down the road. I don't know where Council is getting his numbers or suggestions of potential aid or lack thereof. There's been no real talk of this yet, obviously because of this pandemic, which is on the forefront and is affecting finances, not only just here in Ogdensburg, but nationwide. And those impacts everybody's going to feel those. And, we will have to make very difficult decisions, but, contrary to popular belief, some of the recommendations that came down from the financial restructuring program have been implemented in Ogdensburg, which produced a $2.5 million fund balance within 2 years. So some things are being done and some things are being done correctly. And to be able to offset and pull into a fund balance, which is necessary in times like these, this is what a fund balance is for. I'm not discounting anything that Councilor Fisher Reich said. I said, but I don't think a knee-jerk reaction needs to be done here in light of even something as far back as what transpired 2 years ago in the executive budget with the governor with bail reform. What you don't see there is the impact that has on a municipality, and that is huge when your services are cut. I'm a strong believer that Ogdensburg left flyer. And even while I served on council from 08 to 12 in services that it provides the city. And that's one of the reasons why I got elected, was to provide more services. And we're now cutting more services, and I don't support it, simply and plainly. Thank you.
The fund balance was on the backs of the taxpayers. As far as the recommendations, buying new vehicles through enterprise by leasing them, that was a pretty easy decision. The land bank, in the recommendations, it said that the negotiations with the police and fire were very crucial to our budget, and the biggest raises and the longest contracts in the history of the city were given out by the previous council and 3 of the councilors that are still here. We're not going to burn up the fund balance and then go back and raise our city taxes along with the school taxes. The people, they didn't want that. And 4 people ran in an open election, and they were elected for change, and that's what we're going to do. If that's it for discussion, then we'll. Is there more?
I'd like to I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to table this until the entire council has the opportunity to speak with a lawyer to have this reviewed. I don't think the city needs to have any egg on our face, because if there are some that feel that this is a violation and some that feel that we don't, and we are paying a city attorney, I feel that this should be reviewed. We owe that to the taxpayers of our city that we represent. We are here to make informed decisions, and not one person can make an informed decision unless we know this is legal. And I think that we owe that to our taxpayers to get a consensus of council in writing and request this before we can vote on it. How do I vote on something that I don't know if it's even legal? Because I have not been afforded that, because we were denied to know that because we could not get a consent of council. I think that we all deserve that right. And I make a motion to table this until we can get that done.
I'll second it. There's already a motion on the floor to amend it. I'd like to call a question on that.
Yes.
You are correct. You are correct, Councilor. There was a motion to amend made by Councilor Fisher and a second by Councilor Reich. And I was waiting for clarification, number one, on the changes and for the mayor to call for me to call the roll.
Yes, Kathy, please call the roll on that.
Before I do, Your Honor, I'd like to clarify with Counselor Fisher just to make sure I have your changes correct. It's my understanding your motion is to remove line item 2, the 4 layoffs in the fire department, remove line item 6, the layoff of the city assessor, and change the word eliminate in line item 3 to the word layoff. Is that correct? Counselor Fisher, is that correct?
I couldn't hear you.
It's correct,
Sure
Dave.
that I understand that your proposed changes are to remove line item 2, the 4 layoffs in the the fire department, remove line item 6, the layoff of the assessor, and in line item 3, change the word eliminate to layoff. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. There was a second by Counselor Reich. So this would be a motion to amend, Your Honor. Would you like me to call the roll on the motion to amend?
Yes, Kathy, please.
Counselor Dillibaugh? Counselor Dillibaugh? It appears that Counselor Dillibaugh is self-muted. Counselor Dillibaugh, you need to unmute yourself. Counselor Dillibaugh, if you could work on self-muting, unmuting yourself, I will circle back. Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
I will vote to amend.
Counselor Powers? Counselor Powers?
On the amendment?
This is a vote to amend.
No.
Is that a no, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Counselor Reich?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dillibaugh? Counselor Dillibaugh is showing as self-muted. Unless someone can get a hold, I
can try
count it
calling
as
him I'll try calling him real quick. He's having problems with his computer. He's going to keep trying.
What would you like me to do, Your Honor?
Let's just give him a minute, and then there is sufficient votes to go ahead, and we'll give them another minute if it's all right, Kathy, and then we'll.
It's whatever you guys need to do, so.
Kathy?
Yes.
Could you look into unmuting him?
He is self-muted, Your Honor.
It says you're self-muted.
He has two devices that it shows me he's using. Both devices
flat tire.
show that he is self-muted.
Looks like you're self-muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, Kathy, my this thing's going off on me every 30, 40 seconds, and every time it goes off, then you got to unmute me again.
Okay, I will try on that. I'm not quite sure why it's muting.
Okay, so.
Okay.
The motion on the table is a motion to amend. So I need to know your vote on the motion to amend, please. Councilor Dillabaugh?
There he is again. Hi, Bill.
He's on the call. I can see him.
Yeah. Is there a way he could phone in?
He is showing that he is on the call and he is not muted and his microphone is active. That is what I see on my end.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's saying he's muted by an organizer every time it goes on and off. You got it?
Okay. Am I on right now, Kathy?
You are on. We can hear you. I just need your vote on the motion to amend.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
The motion to amend is approved.
Now that we have the motion to amend, can I make the motion to take this amended resolution and have it looked at by our city attorney with the consensus of the entire council so that we can all make an informed decision? Please.
I'll second that motion to table.
Could we please get a consensus of council in front of our constituents so they know that we are all acting in the best interest of their taxpayer dollars, please? Can we get one more person to say, yes, we can have an attorney look at this before we vote?
The motion's been made and seconded. I'd like to call the question.
Kathy, can we call the roll on our resolution, please?
The motion you have on the floor right now, Your Honor, is a motion by Councilor Kennedy to table with a second by Councilor Scamperly. So if you'd like me to call the roll on that, I'd be happy to do that. Is that what you're asking me to do?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is a motion to table. Councilor Fisher?
No.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Councilor Reed?
Yes.
I'm sorry, there's somebody's got a lot of background noise. Councilor Reed, I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yes.
Councilor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
No.
Pardon me. I misunderstood the resolution. I wish to vote no. It's John Reich.
People at the shop.
Good to know
Do I
everybody's
understand
paying
you correctly,
attention.
Counselor Reese, that you wish to change your vote to no?
Yes, on the motion to table, yes.
Counselor
Which means no.
No.
Someone has a TV going in the background, or I'm not sure what it is, but I'm having a very difficult time hearing. Counselor Dillabaugh, could you repeat your vote, please?
No.
Denied.
We have just denied our taxpayers the right to know if what we're doing is
Oh.
even.
We're giving our taxpayers we're putting the taxpayers first, finally. Okay, so.
And discounting
We have a
other members
motion.
of council.
Are we, okay, did we have a second on our motion on this resolution?
I'll second it.
Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Your Honor, what you would be voting on now is the
Amended resolution.
resolution as amended.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Kennedy?
I missed some votes in the other motion from Nicole. Did I miss a couple votes here?
No, sir.
I didn't hear.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear Dillabaugh's response or Scamperly's response.
Repeat those for you. On the motion to table made by Counselor Kennedy and seconded by Counselor Scamperly, Counselor Dillabaugh cast a vote of no, and Counselor Scamperly casted a vote of yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So, Your Honor, you want me to proceed with the call on the resolution as amended. Is that correct?
Yes, Kathy, please.
Counselor Kennedy?
No.
Counselor Powers?
No.
Counselor Reish?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
No.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dillabaugh?
Oh my God, not again.
Counselor Dillabaugh?
Yes.
There we go. There we go.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Approved.
Okay. Okay. At this time, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Your Honor, I need a second on your motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
And that, I'm sorry, who was that?
Reish.
Thank you, sir.
So do we do all in favor again?
Aye.
Yes, aye.
Yes. All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Night, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah, take care.